kind of weak is what it is.
Yeah, I don't, oh, well,
I think we should go measure the lumens.
yeah, we should. Pip is usually here by now. Pip is usually here. Oh, there she is. Where were you? She was hiding in there?
How was Florida this year?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weather was just, it was like 85 every day, 83, and sunny. And then, you know, when you got under cover, it's like the tropics. You know, there was a nice breeze, so you could eat outside. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't think we had a day of rain.
Tourists there? Tourists come down? Yeah. Busy?
Yeah. It was, yeah. Unfortunate that where I am is still not as developed as much of Naples, because I'm really on the way to Marco. If you're familiar with the area at all.
I'm really not.
There's Naples, like Fifth Avenue, Naples. I have a Naples mailing address, but that's like 40 minutes from my house.
Oh, yeah?
Marco is like 2 miles from my house. So all of our activity really is in Marco. And that's not as packed as, it's not like the East Coast, and it's not like Naples itself, which is a lot of traffic.
We used to go to Sanibel and Captiva.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful area.
it is beautiful. I've been there several times. I stayed there for a week one time.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about it the other day.
So I'm going to take care of two of these things, I think. I'm going to take care of this one. Good evening, everyone. Historic Preservation Commission meeting, April 25th, 2022. It's 6:30. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. If any member has reason to believe this meeting is in violation of that act, they should state so at this time. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Campbell? Here. Mr. Cogswell?
Here.
Ms. Pisagno? Ms. Wilson-Stridick? Mr. Testa?
Here.
Mr. Stevenson?
Here.
Mr. Becker? Here. Mr. Carroll? Mr. Copeland?
Here. Minutes, March 21st, 2022. You've had a chance to review those. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So move.
Motion by, who made the motion? Mr. Cogswell, seconded by?
Becker?
Mr. Becker, thank you. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Abstain.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolutions. Drake at 325 Congress Street, 1031/60, Resolution 2022-9. Capoletti, 458 West Perry Street, 1031/1, Resolution 2022-10. Cape Real Estate Developers LLC, 628 Broad Street, 1060/8, Resolution 2022-11. McMahon, 20 Second Avenue, 1012/5, Resolution 2022-12. Jones, 20 Patterson Avenue, 1018, 1 and 2, Resolution 2022-13. Colson, 1245 Washington Street, 1129/28, Resolution 2022-14. GC Ventures, 314 Claghorn Place, 1031/63 and 64, Resolution 2022-15. Francisci, excuse me for that, 514 Elmira Street, 1054-11, Resolution 2022-16, and approving CLG project, Ethnic Heritage, Resolution 2022-17. Do I have a motion to accept those resolutions?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Move adoption of all of the foregoing resolutions.
The second.
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Ms. Campbell? Yes. Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Abstain.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Applications approved in review. You've all had a chance to review those. Do I have a motion to accept the applications approved in review?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Ms. Campbell? Yes. Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Yes, with the exceptions of Sealatega and Stokes, that should be a recusal on my part.
Yes, except for GLS Ventures and Clyghorn, I recuse myself on that one. Yes.
Yes. We have a couple comments before we get into the applications. We are obligated, we cannot accept any new business after 10 o'clock. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through this agenda, but if for some reason you're concerned about that, at any point during the evening, if you raise your hand, what we'll do is we'll put your presentation on for the next meeting, and we'll put you on the first. So we'll see how the evening goes. Hopefully, we won't be looking at something at 10 o'clock, but we have a long agenda. Some slight changes to the agenda we can explain in detail a little bit later, but the Church of the Advent, 612 Franklin Street, Block 1058, Lot 12, contributing roofing is taken off of the agenda. That has been approved in review. The Chu application, which is the second one tonight, that is being changed from a demolition to a renovation, and I will explain that when we get to that project. With that, we will open it up to the first application tonight is Elaine's Property Management, LLC, 513 Lafayette Street, Block 1053, Lot 13. This is a contributing property, and the subject is an outdoor bar and a second-floor porch. Hello. Oh, wait a minute. We need mics for the... And we need your name and your relationship to the property for the record, please.
Shirley Finney, 513 Lafayette Street, and I'm the owner of the building. It's my husband, Patrick Wall, in case we have a technical question that I'm unable to answer.
Okay. Take it away. It's your presentation.
So we went before the historic a couple of months ago now. We've actually gone through the zoning, as you know, and we had approvals there, and you didn't like where the bar was, so we spoke to some of the people on the historic, and we suggested to move it back to the side of our property, which really isn't a very attractive site anyway. We have the builder there now working on the front where he's putting the new rooms across the front and the new porch, which will go across the front. And right now you can see it and it really fills in and looks nice. It makes the building look nicer. So we said, well, originally with our original zoning, we had on the side of the building a pool. And I said, well, I'll give up the pool. We're trying to be a boutique hotel. classy, upscale. We keep our building really nice, I think. I've owned it 33 or 4 years, and we're always trying to modernize and keep up with the times. And unfortunately, as you, I'm sure, are aware, Victorian isn't real popular right now. So we want to be Victorian and yet modern. So something that families with kids and dogs and, married couples would enjoy to come and stay. So it's not old, even though the building is. So we said we'd give up the pool and move our bar that was in the front there so it'd be more attractive from Lafayette Street. So hopefully you like the new concept. And the builder building it, unfortunately, it's not Steve Fenwick that drew the drawings, but he's 3 or 4 months backed up. And we've been working on this for 2 years already. I've got $40,000 into drawings and surveys and plot plans and lawyers and what have you. And we already have the money in escrow for the zoning. So we're just kind of figuring out where we go from now and if you like the new idea. It will be built, the new drawings are built by the architect that our contractor is, FX Construction. And he'll build, everything to look exactly like the front of the building does. So and I think it's a win-win. The side will actually be more attractive than it used to be and look more like one cohesive building. But basically, I have an historic building that I love. I actually saved an old building, the Cape May Boat Works, right across from the Lobster House. I forget what the name of that street is. They're tearing it down to put condominiums. And we literally rented a lift and took every piece of wood and metal and the doors, the ropes, the wood. We have the wood that has the measuring, and we put it inside and decorated our inside of our building. So we actually saved as much as we could of the building, and when the fella who owned it, his family for many years, he actually cried when he saw it because it was still there. So we're not trying to destroy the historic, we're just trying to be able to pay our bills and stay relevant. If anybody has any questions.
Well, you want to explain this plan to make sure we all have a common understanding. The bar that was on the side, it was visible from the street, is really not appropriate for Cape May. The gas pit is, fire pit is not appropriate for Cape May. And the idea was to put that stuff in the pit. And in your conversation, you just mentioned the side. So,
Excuse me, Warren, do you mind using your microphone? Can you use your mic? I can't hear you very well.
yeah,
Thank you.
right in the middle of the important part of your plan.
Thank you.
Can you hear now? So, yeah, could you just briefly go through this plan for the commission so we know exactly?
So if you pulled in off of Lafayette Street to the driveway, which we actually, we could do away with totally, but the site plan we have now, it's only going to be one way in and not out. So that driveway gets narrowed more. And the county and the city both liked it to be not people pulling out onto Lafayette right there. But if you pulled in there and went through the parking lot, the right side of our building, the top part, as soon as you pull in, there's a second floor with a second floor porch and a sunroom. And it matches the front of the building that has the second floor porch and the front and the sunroom. So, but after the sunroom, there's nothing. So the building's there, but there's no second floor porch. So it would look identical and just extend to the end of the building on that side. So the porch would go all the way around the building. And then that porch would give us basically the roof to the bar. So the bar really turns into a counter. So there'd be a counter, and that would be the bar because the porch roof is the ceiling. And the deck comes out because by making the Lafayette Street the one-way coming in, the parking lot area becomes smaller, and it curves in, and the deck goes there. So, which originally was going to have a pool, now it'll have the bar and seats.
If I understand this correctly, what you basically said was you're proceeding with the work on the facade on Lafayette per the other approvals that you were given.
Right.
You're now presenting us with the changed bar and porch location on the side. And is it fair to say that I can get the whole gist of what you're doing?
Right there.
Right there?
And it's going to look identical, the same builder as the front.
Especially if you look at the picture which is existing there now. Especially if you look at the picture which is existing there now, which is on there, and you'll see that it's not a particularly attractive part of the building. We've always wanted to do something with that. So by extending that porch down, it'll really help with the lines of the building.
And so you've shown us that. You're extending, or your plans are to extend the second floor, so you create a roof over the bar. And the bar is on the first floor underneath that, and it is a bar that blends in under that roof.
Right.
It
Yes, sir. It'll be-
Stick out, it's in clapboard as you've
Clapboard.
outlined.
Yep,
So
and
it
it's-
basically looks like a part of the side of the house, of the building, just,
Right.
it's a bar.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing built up, it's just a counter, basically, almost,
Right.
Because the roof created the space.
And the seating is,
So I have 175 seats, and they're flexible, I can use them in or out. So we would put seats out on the deck, tables and chairs for dining. So we're not asking for more seats, I can't handle more seats. I said that, our kitchen's 175 seats is fine for me.
And we couldn't give them to you either.
I know.
that's not our thing,
So, but there'll be seating out there.
as where is the seating for the bar outside?
It's going to be a straight wall against the back of the building with two sides just to close it in, and there'll be 14 little stools, the wood stools that we have out there now. We have nice wood stools, chairs, they're not stools, they're
Yeah.
chairs. Nice wood chairs with the backs and cushions on the seats, and the same 14 will go straight across that straight line there.
On the side.
On the side, correct.
And there's no planned patio or with tables or chairs or anything like that?
No, there'll be chairs on the, it's a deck now. So if you walked out of the front of Elaine's, there's a porch, and the porch is this high, and that porch will, when you walk out the door, that porch goes that way, the same height. So the porch is carried through the whole thing. So it's just like the front of the building, the porch this height, and the second floor with the,
Well, yeah, my question, no.
there would be chairs out
My
there,
question,
yes.
no, is you have 14 chairs,
Bar
bar
stools.
stools,
Bar stools.
and that's it?
Only 14 bar stools, no, but there'll be tables and chairs.
Yeah,
So
well,
with our zoning, we had 14 bar stools approved. And I have
well, just
175.
so we're clear, what is approved by zoning or planning
Mm-hmm.
is not what is necessarily approved by HPC. So this
Right.
is HPC.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but there
No.
will be some tables and chairs there, yes.
And where are they on this plan?
Where are they? They're not drawn on the plan because,
That's an issue.
yeah, well,
I think what we're trying to get at is we can see the bar, we can see the
Right.
side of the building, we can see the extension of the porch, we can see the roof, we can see the bar, we can see the bar stools in front of it, but we can't see the configuration of tables you intend
Well,
to
they would-
have in front of them.
They're patio tables, so they
Yeah.
would be quite flexible. There wouldn't be a standard, but
So
I mean,
there-
last year they were in the parking lot.
But there's no
So
special terrace or patio you're creating to put those tables on?
No, it's going to be the same rails. So, the porch comes up, it has the same wood.
Are we
rail
talking grass?
Across?
Is it on grass?
no.
No, it'll be on wood.
So
It's
it's on-
the same height as the porch of Elaine's right now. If you walk out the front door,
Building a deck
Yes, sir.
it's a deck, yes.
in addition to the bar.
The bar's on the deck, right, yes.
So, and we have a plan here that is not complete. So it's not complete. What we want to see is exactly, when you're done, what it is that we've approved. We want to see it in a plan. And we want to see the plan with a architect stamp before we approve anything. A deck, patio, whatever you want to call it, how many tables, how many chairs are gonna be out there. We wanna see that, so we can make a determination for streetscape. The issue is, we are committed to preserving this city, whether Victoriana is popular or not. But this is a National Historic Landmark, and we need enough information so we can make a decision. I know you've met with Tom Carroll, who's not here tonight,
Yeah.
but
But the thing is we're licensed for our 175 seats. We're allowed to be outside. So technically,
I'll repeat, I don't want to hear it again. I'll repeat.
you,
This is the Historic Preservation Commission. This is not zoning and it's not planning. We want to be sensitive, we want to be helpful, but whether you have 175 seats or
Okay.
275.
I mean, we trust you're not moving them all outside, but I do want to call your attention, at least my attention is called to A 2.0. And in that drawing, I see what I take to be the bar, and then I see what I take to be a deck, along with tables set out on that deck. That gives me something of an idea. How more specific do we want to be, Warren? I mean, here's the.
Well, first off, we need a sealed plan. This is not a sealed plan, but
the architect told us it was electronically sealed.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
electronic.
know.
I have sealed copies for that.
yeah, I see this. So this is the plan that you'll submit for,
Yeah, and they were sealed, and we raced to get them done for the last meeting and submitted them for your review then, because we only had a day or two to get them done.
this is Lafayette Street here.
Yeah, here's the bar right here,
Yeah, I
and
know.
here's their deck out here.
But this is visible from Lafayette Street, even though.
No, if you look here. They're going right here. And
But
this-
I think what Warren's saying is, looking up the driveway, what can you see from Lafayette when the deck swings out
Yeah,
to
we
the
can see
west?
it.
I mean, and a concern, and we can sort this out, but a concern we would have is the additions to the side of the building, the bar, and all those things, which do tuck in there because of the way the building is configured in front. You don't see those from Lafayette Street. They're just hidden behind the existing. But the deck with its tables that swings out, you do. So that's the concern here.
That would be the same sawn baluster railing that would continue right along there seamlessly from the front of the building. It would tie right in, like I said, the height will not change. It'll be the same cedar sawn balusters that we've made hundreds of, and they'll continue around, and I think it'll be an asset. So it doesn't compromise any
The balusters
parking.
are surrounding the deck.
Yes, sir.
So here,
It looks,
It would be part of the porch. You'd have to come into Elaine's to get onto this.
so here's your bar, right there,
Yes, sir.
okay? And here's your deck.
Yes, sir.
And the balusters are here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. now
Completely around. It'll be,
The problem is.
It's getting clearer to me.
it
okay.
looks like the whole front porch,
Well,
identical.
Again, we scrambled to get these done in conjunction with the two plans. Mr. Carroll thought that we could get the point across.
And we couldn't get more identical to what we have. We made it identical.
The issue, though, remains is we have what I would consider more of a contemporary seating arrangement that is visible from Lafayette Street, so it seems like a landscaping plan would be,
Well, there's the giant cherry tree would block 90% of your view of everything right there because, if you drive by, you'll see it.
well, I'm familiar with it.
And really, we had those big trees out in the front of the parking lot. You didn't even see what was going on. You couldn't even see it when you drove by. It's not an eyesore like you seem to think it is.
Would be
And
a-
I got to tell you, there's
I don't think anybody's implying it's an eyesore, we're just concerned with what's seen.
yeah.
And I hear you saying, and I need to find it on a plan, but I hear you saying that the view that one has from Lafayette as you look out is one of the deck, and it's the deck with balusters, sawn balusters around it, identical to the balusters you have elsewhere on the building.
Yes, sir.
So if you look at the front of Elaine's, you don't notice those tables and chairs there because the deck, the balusters cover it up. They're higher than the tables.
So it's-
And this deck is like 32 feet.
We made
All-
it,
According to what I see on EDA sheet Number two, you have your existing seating plan, which has 8 to 10 tables and 32 seats. There's a proposed seating plan where that area is expanded to 44 patio seats. Then there are 28 porch seats go along.
Right, so
So you.
it was
you
Plan
still
Plan
have
A,
the
then
seat-
Plan B.
You still have the seating in the front of the building.
Right, but we will not, never exceed the amount of seats that we're allowed to have. It's just a question of where we put them. If we,
No,
you know.
excuse me
yeah.
again. We're here worried about
Where you,
HVC and streetscape and how many seats you're going to have outside. HPC is not going to approve 175 seats outside, that's obvious. But the question is, how many seats?
Well, under the proposal, it's 42 indoor and 133 outdoor. That's a lot of seating outside. Unless there's a place in the rear where you can be able to put them. I mean,
Well, actually, then the deck would be an asset, because then they would not, we're trying to stay off the grass. It's not our goal. We like that, that's what the whole idea of the deck and the bar is, to get everything just exactly what you want. Get them off the front of the property, get them located in the back, surrounded by perfectly reproduced sawn balusters with the black rail and black and white. Will tie it in very well. It'll be exactly what you're looking for, especially if you want the seats out of the front of the building, not to compromise the way everything looks.
I mean, and the deck, at least as it appears here, and if you're representing to us, these are the tables, appears that there are 9 tables for however many seats are at those 9 tables. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah.
What we see here, these squares are pretty much where you're going to put your tables on the.
Yes,
Pretty much, but again,
we're flexible.
like I said,
We just wanted to do something that you would like, and we literally took our building and just made it look exactly like that. The deck's the same height, everything's the same. So we're just trying to do something you'll like. Summer's ticking, we're going into May, and it almost seems like everybody's trying to put us out of business. And I got a lot of bills to pay. Again, I paid $67,000 to City of Cape May and $40,000 in all these drawings. And I got a bank loan and I got a mortgage, and May's coming. And if, we're at the end of our rope here, so, we need to figure out, or you want to shut me down. And so that's the decision. We survive as a historic building. And
Respectfully, we're not your finance team.
I know, but you have to understand what it's like. It's not easy.
It's just-
We're trying to give you exactly what you want, and I don't know that we could be any
so who
closer.
suggested this deck?
It was, when we went through the zoning, again, I got unanimous approval with the bar up front, the seats, the deck with a pool. The deck was approved with the pool. I have the money in escrow. I have the everything ready. And then somebody said, oh, wait a minute, the historic didn't look at that. And now, after the fact, I'm with you. They thanked me. They said it looks beautiful. It's the nicest thing you see when you drive down Lafayette Street. And I know everybody laughs at me when I say it, but I don't understand how the zoning, which I think the appeal from here goes to zoning, can say, oh, my God, it's thank you so much. And historic can
Different
say-
subject matters.
I know,
Totally
but-
different subject
and
matters,
say it's
regardless
not
of the
appropriate.
jurisdiction. I have one question about your materials sheet, and that's only one. Would you explain what a polyurea deck system is?
that was actually suggested by Mr. Fenwick. It's basically just applied exactly like fiberglass is. It just lasts longer and is less brittle in the sunlight. It's a 2-part, just like
You're saying
fiberglass
it's a
resin.
coating over wood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine.
No, we put the wood down, and we'll do whatever you want. I
No,
didn't know what it was
It's really
either.
not what I want. I
and-
just want to make sure it's not a plastic deck.
No, sir.
On a contributing.
Everything's wood.
Fine, thank you.
The whole building, always wood.
And the whole new deck that we're proposing out by the thing is all mahogany with the cedar and the oak rails, so.
So if you were standing on, like, let's say you're standing at Star of the Sea, and you're looking at your building.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to see this deck or not?
What you could see through the cherry tree, but where our front steps, which are the side steps, is approximately 60 feet off the property. From that vantage point there, you would see probably 20 to 30 feet of the side of the deck, and then the rest of it be back, and then head along the side of the building into the parking lot. Not into the parking lot, because we can't be in the parking lot. The parking is not changing at all.
What we would see would be your ballast.
Balusters, the sawn balusters, and it would just like looking at the front
You
deck.
don't see people sitting behind the balusters. You don't see people sitting there. I mean, you see a head,
But-
but the table's below
It would
the
look just
level
like
of
you're
the
looking
rail.
at the railing of the rest of the building.
So, I don't know if I'm fully getting this.
Okay.
But what about if in front of this deck, on the side of the deck that faces Lafayette?
Mm-hmm.
So, like if you were standing at Star of the Sea and you're looking over there, what if you put bushes up there, like the way Congress Hall has?
Well,
And you'd see the bushes?
We can put bushes up there. Like I said, the tree will block 90% of it until the wintertime, but I'll put anything you want there. The last meeting, I said, I'll make it look like what you want. I'll do whatever you want.
I think what we want, what the Historic Commission wants, is the Historic Commission wants not to see something that isn't so historic.
Okay.
right? So I think it's not so much what you do, or, I mean, there's a lot of things you wouldn't want to do, but putting the bar on the side, I think, is better than having it like in that little house, right?
Right.
And anything you could do to get that blow-up television screen and all of that.
There you go. That's it. That
I
will,
walk by there every day.
yes. So that's our goal, is to move everything around to the side. And where that cherry tree is now, if you walk by our property, that is a garden there. And you're just talking about bigger plantings, I got no problem with it.
Right.
So that's the easy thing.
To me, although I'm not the person who has anything all by myself to say anything about it, but to me, I think the deck is better than having all these table and chairs on this.
That's what we think.
I don't want people on the lawn any more than
And
you do.
then it's always dead grass, because,
So we just, like I said, Art, and I know we're not concerned with seating here, you're just worried about aesthetics, but this will help with the aesthetics as far as you're concerned. And again, the contractor who's doing the work out front, which will match everything perfectly, is doing the same stuff, the same work on the side. Oh, hopefully doing the same work on the side. And I really do believe, if you look at the way the porch extension comes down the side of the building, and look at the existing picture of it, which is completely unattractive, the one right by your left hand right now. No, but where your left hand is on the front page, right there, that's the picture of what's there now. So that porch extension down there will dramatically make that look better. And again, it'll be the sawn balusters matching the roof as it goes all the way around the building. It'll tie it together nicely.
We don't have construction plans, right, to look at?
You have construction plans for the porch.
This is the largest packet I've ever handled.
I know,
thought
it
I
was,
saw-
and again, we hurried to get it done, and again, Mr. Carroll thought that it would get the, but he's got his hands on the porch construction plans.
Could you just reference a page number so we could open
I,
this massive,
if you hand me one of those spare copies there, I'd be happy
hand you
to.
my copy? Yeah. I'll look here. You just mentioned where the construction plan.
It's not the site plan. These are deck construction plans for proposed porch, the final page there.
This, on some page here, it
That would
talks
be
about new plans in progress.
Pardon me? That's, yeah, I don't know if these are the most,
I believe the most current ones are the outdoor bar and balcony drawing on A2 11/17.
and that's construction drawing for the porches, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And they,
Which I want to talk about in a minute.
okay. That's-
Well,
This isn't the You don't have the rest of the plans on you. Oh, you have-
I have whatever you gave in the packet plus the small piece.
Okay, yeah.
Which is this.
So that was a construction drawing for the porch, again,
Yeah.
done rather
Got-
in a hurry, but
I don't think that's a construction plan, but John, why don't you address that?
Yeah, so, by the way, this is so much better than the bar on the side, and I think you guys took
Pardon me, John, could you please use your mic? Thank you.
Yeah, pull it close to you.
Yep, let me start over. So, clearly, this is far superior to what you were proposing when we spoke last, and you clearly took into account what we were suggesting about moving the bar to the side and trying to maintain the historical character of the building. And it appears to me that your attempts to do that are definitely in the right direction, as depicted on drawing A 2.0, which is the 11.5 by 17 that we have, right? However, there's a couple things that are, and if you look at it really closely, would never have been done at that time. For example, if you look at the column spacing, there's a 19-foot wide column spacing, and the biggest column spacing you have anywhere else in the historic structure is 12 feet. And in fact, if you look at the front, it's only 10 feet. So you have one span that's almost double what the span would have been historically of those columns. So that's one. Second, same thing happens with the railings, particularly on the ramp. There's a span of a single railing that's 15 feet, which we never would have seen at that time, nor does it match the detail and the historic character. So I would suggest, very simply, and I know you can't get the dimensions to match exactly because of the existing spacing, but you'd get them a lot closer to what would have been.
And that is our intent. We
Yeah.
want to make it look exactly like what we have.
yeah, the
But
19
The
is,
architect just,
I get it.
drawings from afar.
And the third issue is, I don't see any details of exactly what those railings look like. There's a small note that says you're matching the existing railings, but that doesn't show us what they are. So those are the three things that I would look at, is the column spacing, the railing spacing, and the railing details. That's what we need to see. Okay?
Could we do this as a motion, and if it's not conceptual, final, but subject to those three conditions, and have them submit the details with respect to the column span, the exact details of those
would be
things,
happy to supply.
and have that done by review? So do
Well-
subject to condition?
We can't approve final because we don't have plans. We don't have a construction plan. So, and the proposed, I know I'm a little impatient because we have a big meeting tonight and we've talked about this project for months now. We could do a conceptual, someone could make a motion for conceptual approval, but it's too much to approve in review. They're going to have to come back with a final plan that then we have a resolution. I mean, it's too important of a building.
Fine, I'm happy to move it along as best we can. If that seems to be the limit, then I'll make the motion. I'll move that the
Well,
application.
Are there any other questions?
Yes,
Oh, sorry,
at the last time that you presented this, I suggested that you come in with a lighting plan. And I think I'd also like to see a lighting plan for the outdoor area submitted to see what kind of lighting they're going to have there, with
And-
cutouts.
And it will have landscaping.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or observations for the group? Do I have a motion?
Can we make the motion to grant conceptual approval as submitted with the suggestions that were made for final construction plans of the four items that were mentioned, which will have to be heard again?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by
Sorry, I'll
Ms.
second.
How long is it going to take for them to come back?
Hopefully next meeting.
Well, we can't approve it in review because of the details, so it's
Well,
going
I
to,
understand that, so
Well-
will they automatically come to the next meeting?
yeah, we can put them, yeah,
Thank you.
yes, we can put you on the next meeting and we can put you on early. We want to be helpful and we want to be cooperative, but there are certain things that we simply can't approve on a conversation. And so we need the detail, we need the lighting, and we need a landscape plan. There's a motion made conceptual. Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Becker. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
So may I just make one more comment, just as something that might help you guys? In the addition where the new porch is, instead of dividing that into 3 bays, if you divided that into approximately 4 equal bays, it would be just about right. And the same thing with the ramp, instead of 2 bays, 3, and it would be just about right.
We didn't go around the room with, we have the yeses, right?
Yes.
We have
Okay.
yeses. Yes.
Good, thank you. Next order of business is Chu, 401 Lafayette Street, Block 1046, Lot 8. It's a non-contributing building, and it's listed as a demolition. So while the applicant is coming forward, let me bring the Historic Preservation Commission up to date as to conversations that we've had with this. This project was first approved in 2019. Since then, the building, several portions of the building have been removed, which would normally prompt a demolition. In addition to that, at some point, the plan also changed to have a very different building, multiple stories, living accommodations above. Trying to accommodate the applicant and the city, I met with the zoning, and I met with the construction office. And I've met several times with the applicant. And so what we've agreed on, the 3 entities, the zoning official, construction official, and the HPC, is that we will not look for a demolition review, which could in fact change all kinds of setbacks and some other things. And to move the project forward, I had proposed, and the city has agreed, and the applicant has agreed, that they're going to go back to the original plan that was approved in 2019 with a modest change to the front of the building. In addition, so that it is continues to be a renovation, the existing walls that are there, which I have photoed, those walls will be incorporated into the new construction. And if there's a rotten stud or something, when you get a little bit more involved, then it's going to have to be sistered. But we cannot have the old game plan of building new walls, get to the old walls and deciding they're rotten, so we tear those down and build new walls. They have to be incorporated into the existing structure so that it remains a renovation. So with that, the plan that you're going to propose, I think, we'll see tonight, is the original one that was approved by the HPC then, but then there's supposed to be just a modest change to the front.
Okay. So, but we don't have any materials
I
other
asked them
than
to bring-
other than the demo. Thank you.
So this is a little bit unusual, because we normally look at plans beforehand. But the city, the HPC, and the applicant, we're all in agreement, we want to get this corner fixed. So,
So do we get a reading period here? Or just read it as we go along?
well, they're going to present it. The exception is, remember, is that this this has been before us before, so I don't know whether, Jim, you saw it or not.
I did, and maybe the presentation just highlight what it is that's changed.
Yeah, but,
I have a vague memory, but it's failing.
oh, yeah, we need your name and relationship to the property.
Okay, Kate, Cheryl, Connor, this is my dad.
Oh, will you turn the button on so it's green?
Herc Weatherall, just here for technical help if needed.
Mine was not green, so Kate Show again. Thank you. I'm the owner. Thank you so much, Mr. Copeland and the board here. We are here today to ask for approval of a change we made when we presented the plans to the planning board. We had come to you guys first in 2019, and we do apologize for failing to come back to you guys it was a gable, and then now it has gone to a tower in the front. And we do want to just tell you, we do apologize. We haven't been back, but we're here now to make it right and ask for your approval on this. We have had lots of setbacks. We've been working very hard. We just want everyone to know, but the whole pandemic, it was one thing after the next and lots of holdups. So not that you need to know about all that, but we've been moving as much as we can. We really want to build a beautiful building. We think that looks historic and Victorian with gingerbread and mansard roofs and cedar shake and wood siding. And
This is the old one.
so it is just that change to the front. It was a gable, and then it went to a tower. We just thought it was more pleasing to the eye, but we liked the look of it better.
We distributed, when you sat down, we distributed what was there before. That's this. This is what was presented and approved.
Yes.
You should have that at your station there. I just provided that for,
Yeah, so the two A200 drawings, the most recent one is the one that's dated September 27th of '21? The one in the packet you just gave us?
Yes, that is the current.
That's the
Yes,
current. Okay,
yes.
thank you.
and you're all familiar with that corner. So, with that, do we have any questions before the group? Anyone? The dimensions of this building, we see the tower, but all the dimensions remain the same.
Yes.
There's no changes.
No.
And there's a concrete slab poured, and that slab is consistent with this plan.
Yes. Yes.
So let's give the group a minute to look at the plan. Normally, that's why we have the plans in advance, is so the HBC has a chance to review them. And as I said, we're making a number of exceptions here.
Thank you. I know. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And we're back to that small second floor portion is storage,
Storage?
not living space.
Well, we're just developing, the ice cream shop first, which is downstairs. And that's just going to be, for now, we had intentions of one day building a one-bedroom apartment, which was approved by the planning board already. But right now, we're just focusing on the ice cream shop down below. That's
Well,
our
we wanna
main
be-
focus.
We want to be clear that when you do things like that, that puts you back to zoning. We're not zoning, but if you're going to make a change to this plan at some point in the future with the idea of putting a living space, it's going to have to go back to zoning. We're not zoning, so.
But we were approved. Yeah, we were approved. No, I know, yeah.
Yeah, this has been, it's passed before zoning.
We brought that,
Our attorney worked the zoning.
we brought that. If-
What we approved before was a building with storage on the second floor, not living space.
So are you saying that it's been before the other board and approved with a living space?
Yes,
Okay, so what we have is approval there inconsistent with what's been approved before.
okay, sorry, I didn't
So
remember
are you-
that, I'm sorry.
You're asking us now to approve the revised structure with living space?
Yeah, that's what we would like. I didn't know, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, I really did not realize that that
I'm
was
just getting my
not,
head
I
around the
guess because
tower,
it's been
but
3
there's a
years.
There's a different use here for the upper floor. First it was storage, now it's living space.
But is it the same size and the same height and all of that?
Yes,
So it's the same building?
yes.
So,
I would jump all at once. I have no problem with the tower change to this plan.
Are you going to use the same roofing materials as in the previous?
Yes.
Are we treating this as a new application, an amendment? What's the way this gets handled? We've approved something, now there's a tower being added onto it.
I think we should consider this to be, as I said, it's a renovation. It was approved here, went to zoning, planning, which is typical, and then if there's any changes made, it has to come back. And I think that's the way we should consider this. So the change that has been accepted by zoning or planning is to move the storage to living. They didn't necessarily approve the tower, or they did.
They did. We brought that, if anybody wanted to see that, the planning board resolution.
So I think we should eliminate the several-year period in between, and we should jump from 2019.
So that was sort of turns out to be more conceptual and informally conceptual, and now what's in front of us is an application for final approval as submitted here. Okay,
Yes,
got it.
sorry for the confusion.
Well, it's the first time it's happened to me, so.
Thank you so
So, any questions? John, you want to start? Do you have any observations?
I would move to approve.
Corbin?
All right, we're basically just going to approve the exterior as it was originally presented with the change of the tower, as I understand it.
Yes. Pip?
Nope, I don't have anything. It's fine.
Nothing more from me.
Do I have a motion?
Looks good. I move we accept the application as presented.
I'll second.
I would like to just suggest that, I don't know whether it's an amendment to the motion, but just to be sure the renovation concept is carried through, so that the approval includes this as a renovation, and therefore incorporation of the remaining existing structure. So I don't know if that'll be a condition to the
No,
approval.
I think it should be part of the condition of approval, and conversations with all parties at the city.
And let it
Are
be
as
understood
firm.
that any change to the exterior has to come back before the full board.
So if it's acceptable to add that condition to the motion as it was made, I would offer that.
So I want to make sure we have the right motion here to incorporate the existing structure. So do you want to repeat the,
All right, approved it as submitted with the caveat that the existing, or the remaining walls be incorporated into the building, that the materials that were originally presented are going to be used now. We will add the tower to the original approval. Any further change must come back to the HPC. Is there anything else that you came up with, Jim?
No, I think that does it. Do I have a second?
I get it. Second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Cogswell, seconded by Mr. Testa. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland.
Yeah,
Busy creating our own Disneyland.
well, it's showing it, though.
Those four walls.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a problem with this one, that I'm 75 feet from my house, so I need to recuse.
Okay. Next order of business is Offelman, 219 North Street, Block 1031, Lot 43. This is a contributing property with the application asking for a rear addition, a pool, and a garage. Name and relationship to the property?
Good evening. Adam Crossland with Backish Architects, with the property owners Daniel Uffelman and Amanda Adams.
And your role is?
The project manager. Does everybody have a copy of the plans I provided? I'll walk you guys through this.
Yeah, everyone should have it.
We do.
Okay, so we're proposing a rear addition to the property, a garage to be built in the rear of the property, and a new pool to be built in the rear of the property. If you look on,
Are you looking for final, conceptual?
we're looking for final, hopefully.
Don't you have to go before zoning and?
We do not. We have zoning approval. So I submitted updated plans. If you look at, if you go to ZP1, the first sheet is just an HPC sheet showing the existing elevations on the block. The same set of plans that are in front of you have been approved by zoning. And they were approved back on the 9th of March. I could certainly get you a copy of the approved zoning permit. But that's actually why we delayed. I had spoken to you, and you'd said, I said, let's just wait till we get zoning approval, and then we'll come in for final review.
And the existing building is remaining on its foundation?
Correct.
No, So, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Continue.
So if you look on sheet ZP1, which is the site plans, it shows the existing site plan and then the proposed. So you'll see we're proposing a rear addition in the back, that's that shaded area, a deck and a porch towards the rear, and a pool and a garage in the back. ZP2, you can just skim through, that's the existing building.
Is that garage going to be used as a garage?
It is. It's going to be for cars.
And you have a curb cut?
So it's Capehart back there. I don't really think there is a curb on that little street back there.
So you're accessing?
Clanghorns, Capehart, I don't
From the
believe there's
back,
any curbs on that street. You guys, you're back there. I used to bike back there as a kid. There's no,
Where the garage is going is existing parking. You know, right now, it's just,
right, but he's saying there's no curb back there. It's
don't think
just
so.
asphalt that goes right into everyone's
Yeah.
properties.
No, because I think that the other,
Yeah, there's no curbs or sidewalks back there. ZP3 show the existing elevations of the building. Obviously, the street front elevation, there's no proposed changes to. It'll stay as it is. The sides of the original building will stay very consistent with how it currently is. There was a 3-story addition that was put on this house probably 100 years ago that was kind of very industrial looking. So we are proposing to give the house a better look on the back, kind of mimic the front portion of the building on the rear. ZP4 goes into,
Does that mean you're tearing something off, or you're just covering?
we're not really tearing it off, we're just covering it. None of the building is to be demolished. We're just fixing the roof line. If you look on the existing, which would be ZP2, I'm sorry, ZP3. If you look at the side elevations and then skip over to ZP5, you'll see that we're taking that very low-pitched roof off and putting a higher pitched roof to match the existing portion of the front of the building. So we tried to take the detail of the front and mimic it on the back so it looks like it was how the house would have been built originally. We kind of took the best features of the house on the front and tried to mimic it in the back. And then last but not least is ZP6, which is the elevations of the proposed garage. Again, we're going to mimic the detailing at the roof in that garage building, which when I read the historic report here, and I actually highlighted it for everybody in the historic survey, the things we will definitely be doing. It says here, every effort should be made to retain the special elements in the house, such as the gable trim work. So we are preserving that. We are also going to mimic it on the addition. The front wrapping porch is, of course, going to stay. And it also mentions here to preserve the wood sash windows. We are going to preserve the windows where possible. Any new windows would be Colby wood windows. And with that, I can go into the materials list, if you have that nearby.
Yeah, go.
Okay. So the roof, we're going to propose to put asphalt to match the existing conditions in the main house. All fascia will be cedar to match conditions on the original front portion of the house. Soffit, same thing, will be cedar to match existing. Siding will be, there's a typo there, it says cedar but with a T. So that's going to be cedar clapboard to match existing. All windows would be Colby wood windows, as this board has approved in the past.
We're going to need
It's called a cut sheet.
a cut sheet on the.
Okay, and I just got all the windows approved at the Mad Batter, so I'll have the same spec sheets we used for all those, because they're all wood windows with, I'll get you those.
Well, we want to make sure, all these manufacturers, they talk about all wood, and then they vinyl clad, or they aluminum clad.
And he's met with Danny many times, they're gonna be all wood windows for sure.
And painted, primed.
Yeah, we're gonna have them pre-primed when they come, and then we're gonna paint them once
I think we're going to make it helpful in the next guidance when people say wood windows to indicate, like, in parentheses, non-clad. Because
It's
that's
harder
just
and harder to
becoming
find
so.
them, I'm always on the phone, but Gelwin makes one and Colby makes a true still wood window.
No, and there are people who make them. It's just that we've seen now, we have to ask this question every time, and I'm thinking of just having people say, wood non-clad.
The doors will all be custom wood doors. All the porch columns will be cedar to match existing, and will keep the same look as what's on the existing house. All railings will be custom wood railings to match the existing profile. The decking proposed will be Ipe wood decking. Foundation will be brick over a CMU block foundation. Any HVAC enclosures will be cedar wrapped. The outside shower will also be cedar wrapped. Driveways and walkways will be brick pavers. Exterior lighting will be Cape Cod style coastal lighting. I actually put a sample of that in your packet. And the garage will be consistent with the main house. All materials will match the rest of the house. Everything will be wood, asphalt roof, wood windows, wood decking, and it'll retain
And wood
the
garage
gabled
door?
wood garage door, and we're going to put the gable detailing to match the house on there, and that'll also be all wood.
It will definitely be wood.
Any questions? Members of the HPP?
So on these elevations, the proposed front elevation, I'm assuming that the 4/4 windows on the
Would you
second,
talk
first,
into the mic?
yeah, the window mullions shown on the proposed front elevation, you're just not showing all the mullions because you're not changing those, is that correct?
Correct. And I have to, so the way we represent new versus proposed on a drawing,
Yeah,
then we didn't show the grills. But yes, all windows will have grills to match the existing.
great, so that's your drawing convention, right?
Correct.
Fair enough. On the proposed right side elevation, I do see a note here, it's wood fiber cement siding, and I thought you said it was wood siding, so which is it?
It will be wood siding.
Okay, so. you might-
Definitely, if that would just have been a crossover.
Yeah, I think you
on
want
the
to
town, but
delete that note
In the
then.
historic district, it has to be wood siding.
Okay, but it says fiber cement, so I think you want to get rid of that note, right? And then
We
lastly,
can make that a condition of approval, that it's
Great.
truly wood siding.
and lastly, on the rear elevation, really nicely done, by the way. Yeah, it's really nice.
We spent a lot of time making sure it would blend in with the neighborhood.
But the question I have is, on the first and second floor, those big, huge doors, there's, the mullions seem like the glass size is huge, as opposed to dividing those also into 4/4s. See what I'm saying?
No, explain your question to me.
Yeah, so if
You'd
you
like
look-
us to put more grills in them? Is that what you're saying?
Well, right now, if you look at the dimensions of the glass in those doors, it's essentially, it's 4 lights, as opposed to the scale of the rest of it, which would have been 8 lights. 4/4, essentially, in the glass of the doors on both the first and second floor and the rear elevation.
Yeah, well, you and I have been talking about this back and forth. Right, we were trying to not have it be too busy with too many grills. So I thought this was a good compromise, because they were saying no grills, and I'm like, no, you got to have some grills in the window to keep the historic look. So we presented this. Obviously, that's what they would like, so that it doesn't get too busy with grills, but I see what you're saying.
Well, it's not unprecedented. I mean, you could, I'm curious about it, though, because they are different than the windows. They're actually doors in all cases, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so just asking about that. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else? Questions? Do I have a motion?
I would motion to approve with the caveat that there's no fiber cement siding.
Got cheats.
Do I have a second?
Second that. I second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Recused.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next order of business, Offelman,
Don't get sick of us.
10 North Street, Block 1021, Lot 2. This is a contributing property, demolition of a portion of the rear porch.
Do you have the original plan?
Bob, did you want
Yes.
to make a comment about this application?
Yeah, it really would not be accurate to call it a demolition or go through the process that we normally apply the demolition to. When we're doing a renovation and removing material as part of the renovation, but not the whole house or even up to 50% of the house, then it's appropriate to just deal with it as a renovation,
Okay.
not a demo.
It's such a small portion of the house, so.
Yeah.
Adam Carlson with Backus Architects, the project manager. Again, I'm here with Danny Uffelman and Amanda Adams, the owners of the property. We're here tonight. There was a addition put onto this house that was back in 2004, I believe. and we want to remove a third of the rear/right side porch that was built back then, so we can put a pool and a pool deck in the rear yard. The pool itself was already approved in review, but when we realized at the site there's a porch in the back, and decks can be in a 10-foot setback of a pool, but a two-story porch cannot. So we need to remove the second floor portion of the porch to allow for a pool to be within 10 feet of it. So that's what we're here tonight for, is if you look at HC1, the drawing I provided, it shows the rear third. It's all porch up on the second floor. On the first floor, just one small section of it is a porch. However, that first floor part is going to stay a deck. It's just not going to have a roof above it, and be incorporated in with the pool deck.
Right. And also looking to raise the incorporate.
Correct. And then we're asking that the pool deck can be raised to 20 inches so that you don't have to really step down far on to the pool deck. It is screened with a fence and landscaping, so you won't see it from the street.
You're looking for final, but we don't really have a plan.
Well, it's gonna look identical, so when we take it back, that 7 foot,
No, I understand that, but still we need a plan. But when you start talking about the deck or the access or the level of getting to the pool and all that,
This was a small project to put a pool in the back, and it's kind of snowballed, because we didn't realize zoning was going to interpret it, that the 10 feet had to be within the porch. We really wanted the porch to stay, but now it's either the pool can stay or the porch can stay. We can't have both, because it has to be 10, like I said, the pool has to be 10 feet from the building. It's okay to be within a deck, but it can't be within a porch, anything that's 2 stories. So really, we need to take off that back third. And I tried to mark it up on here so you know exactly what we're doing.
So just understand this, what you're taking away is the back third bay of the 2004 edition, and both of those, on both floors, that's an outdoor porch space, correct?
Correct. And the first floor the decking
Yeah.
and framing will stay, but
And-
everything up above your head would go away.
Right, and you're just raising that deck to match the pool deck, right?
Correct.
Okay.
the pool deck, which is, I need a magnifying glass. The pool deck, what are the dimensions?
So the dimensions
Front to
are,
back, yeah, not side to side.
so it's 10 feet from the real property line to the pool deck. Then the pool deck is 16 feet, the pool is 10, and then there's 10 more feet to the property line, because everything incorporated with the pool has a 10-foot setback.
And then we have a landscaping thing shown, but do we have a landscaping plan?
It's going to be all hydrangeas around the back, right?
correct.
English garden.
Okay,
Do you have a fence plan?
There's a 4-foot-high wood pool fence that will go all around the backyard, including the pool area.
Details, you don't have,
We actually, that was already approved in review, so we did submit a detail of that fence. The pool and the fence were approved in review. When we realized we had to take the back portion of the porch off to make it work, we then just said, rather than having to demolish the first floor portion, let's raise the whole pool deck up to that same elevation.
questions, comments?
Did everyone use
Excuse me?
Did everyone get the zoning letter that was distributed today?
They,
I think I've seen it.
Mr. Crossland, you got the zoning letter?
I did, and I already replied back to Bruce.
that's this, you have it in front of you.
I had it not.
None of that really has to do with what we're here tonight. It's more for the pool itself, not the partial demolition to the building or renovation to the building.
Well,
Well, I've heard a lot of representations, and I take you at your word, but I'm not so sure I see the materials in the paper to back that up. I mean, the 20-inch deck seems to be the subject also of interest here.
yeah.
I have a feeling that I have just no difficulty with what you've said in terms of chopping things off.
I get what you're saying. The 20-inch deck, though, it really just has to do with zoning and grading to make sure that the runoff on it,
Yeah,
it's not really an
I'm not questioning the rationale. I'm just saying, when you say those things, I like to see them on a piece of paper that shows
No.
that very thing.
I normally try to make sure zoning is already taken care of. We actually had zoning approval on this prior, and then we found out there was an issue with the second floor porch, so we revised our application and resubmitted it, and that's what you're seeing, Bruce's comments on that, which I only got at 4:30 this afternoon, I think. But we are trying to at least get the HPC end of it done, and then I'm going to revise the zoning application and get it back in per the zoning official's comments. But Danny's actually met Bruce Britton out at the site, so he's very familiar with what's going on there to kind of expedite this.
Yeah, we started the pool and then we ran into this issue, so we're, got a nice hole in the backyard right now.
And muddy dogs.
So
I think it is supposed to rain in the next day or
That's why
so.
hopefully we can get this resolved tonight, because otherwise it's 3 more weeks that this project sits in limbo, so.
yeah, well, at least we can get this part, and then Adam and I have to work with Bruce to meet all
To work
zonings
out
of,
the zoning stuff.
you know,
but-
necessities, of course.
I think Tom Carroll even came out to the site, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
you
that-
guys seen what we
Well, that guarantees difficulty.
right.
He was actually very, very helpful.
You're looking for final,
Yes.
and the question is,
Final, all we need tonight for final would be for the removal of the second floor porch and roof on the existing
well, no.
building.
No, you need to have approval from the HPC for the plan that's presented. And the question I have is, and now that we have the zoning question, can we really give final, subject to no changes by zoning? I mean,
You can do that if the zoning is going to change the configuration of the property in any way, you'd have to come back.
Configuration in which way?
So we're not, the only, if you read that zoning letter, he wants a grading plan to show that there's no runoff changes. The size and shape of the pool and pool deck are not going to change. The only change we were discussing is, which we'd have to get HPC approval for anyway, be it in review or back before the full board, would be what we do at the paver driveway. But that's not part of this
He
application.
does say that you've got a site plan that doesn't match the survey. and the difference seems to be
He has to have the survey
7
updated.
feet.
So that I have to call the surveyor and have him update
So,
the survey.
so Mike,
Yeah,
we would like to expedite this, but it seems to me that we could, to read the board, the table here, it seems like people are in agreement. But the question is, can we really give final? Wouldn't it be more reasonable for conceptual?
Conceptual, subject to getting the zoning issues cleared up. I mean,
Is there a way to get conceptual, but it could be approved in review for final, so we don't have to wait to come
No,
back?
final would have to be.
They're
You could
trying to
do it
get
the other way
their
around.
yard finished.
Yeah,
It's a mess back
yeah.
I mean, the real issue on the table is, can we give it final with conditions
Yeah.
that are acceptable enough to have you satisfy those conditions and avoid another hearing?
Right.
That seems reasonable.
I mean, I'm happy to make a motion in that direction. Let's just frame the conditions.
Right.
Okay,
So I would move that we grant final approval to this application, but subject to the following conditions. Take it away, folks.
Well, zoning approval for one.
Really locked up.
Full set of construction plans?
Yeah, showing the,
Number one.
so you mentioned in the materials that it's the wood decking. But for example, where you're removing the existing porch, doesn't really refer to how you're handling the railing on that porch on the second floor anymore, so we'd need to see a detail of that.
Submission of a full set of materials, showing all the proper materials for the
an
structure.
elevation,
And the revised elevations.
elevation showing the pool deck raised so that we can see what we're doing here.
Okay, so that's condition number 3. Anything else? Satisfaction of all the zoning?
yeah.
I mean, satisfaction to be seen by our review committee of the zoning letter and the questions that it raised. So I think we ought to have shown that you satisfied those. If they turn out to be things that were within our jurisdiction, we'd like to know those have been satisfied.
Right. If
Okay.
anything changes,
Am I up to like 4 conditions or
It
5?
sounds like subject to the zoning issues, full set of construction plans, a railing plan, materials list, and revised elevations is what I have.
That sounds right to me.
All right, I make the motion as structured as just read.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Becker. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes,
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Thank
thank
you.
you so much. We
Thanks, guys.
appreciate that, so we don't have to come back again, hopefully. Thank you.
I know.
Next order of business is 429 Beach Avenue. Block 1041, Lot 19. This is a contributing window replacement, stairway addition, a roof repair, railing, and trim replacement.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Joel Fleischman. I'm an attorney.
Would you talk into the mic?
Sure.
please?
Excuse me.
Just eat the mic.
Good evening. My name is Joel Fleischman. I'm an attorney here this evening representing 429 Beach Avenue LLC. I'm not going to say too much. I'm actually going to just turn this right over, not to belabor the matter, to Tom DeRigo, our architect who's here, Ross Hammer, one of the principals, Linda Cavallo also is in the audience. She's also one of the principals, 2 principals of 429 Beach Avenue. So with that, I'd like to have Mr. DeRigo explain this project.
Okay, good evening. I think in the packet we provided.
Excuse me, sir,
And
could
you
you,
are,
could you,
Thomas DeRigo, TJD Architects and Engineers.
and,
La Chicona Hammer, the owner.
excuse me,
La Chicona Hammer, I'm the owner.
the owner?
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. In our packet that we provided, I believe we submitted a project narrative. I don't know if everyone received that or
Yes,
not.
we have it.
You have not?
Yes,
Oh, you
we
do?
all have it.
Okay. In that document, it attempts to basically outline the main approach to this renovation project. The owners wish to restore the operation of the residential component in the upper floors, which historically were hotel rooms. And these are going to become new bed and breakfast facilities as part, in addition to maintaining the existing restaurant and bar uses on the first and second floors. Part of this exercise when we first got involved with the project was to review a lot of the existing conditions that have been built and installed over the years. And now that we are intensifying the use to include this residential component, it's imperative on our part to assure that all of the life safety issues are addressed in conformance with the current code. So as part of that, we had to look at finding adequate ways of providing egress and smoke-safe conditions for that egress for all floors of the project. We've attempted to respect all of the exterior envelope conditions. One of the things that is most prominent to this would be the restoration of the existing second-level porch that comes off of the current bar. And if you're familiar with the property, you know that some time ago there was an apron wall installed, and the original balusters were applied to that apron wall, and then there were sliding glass doors installed on top of that. Not exactly a sensitive application. So what we've attempted to do here is that will be an important component to the revised bar operation at the second level, is to try to come back and balance the need for life safety protections at that upper level, along with sensitivity towards restoring some of those existing conditions that would be modified under our proposal, but moving quite a distance toward a more appropriate response. The first few pages of our package are rather small and hardly legible, so I apologize for that. But if you skip back to, let's say, page A2.2 and 2.1, you'd see a little more clearly the scope of what's being proposed. Specifically, we'll talk first, I guess, about the porch, because that's the most significant element that we should deal with, I think. The A2.2 shows the existing conditions restored, by and large, to what we have available from historic photographs. That balustrade that's currently applied to the face of that apron wall, we intend to reproduce in an approved material, be it cedar or perhaps redwood. I have some past history using redwood. We propose a redwood railing for top and bottom, and then a CNC cut baluster to replicate those existing baluster profiles. That would be done in wood. I do have a note on the on the one that mentions, yeah, you can disregard that. We know that that's not acceptable, so that managed to sneak in there.
So we're crossing out the CPVC.
Correct.
Yeah, we've all crossed that out, actually.
Yes. Yeah, that'll go away for sure. If it matters to the board, we probably would, it's really a matter of availability whether we're going to execute most of this in either mahogany, cedar, or even redwood. But the intention on the deck is to plank that with remove the carpet and plank it with a mahogany tongue and groove plank. And we have some notes there about that apron wall. We wanted to maintain that simply because when you have seating against that railing, I think if two factors. People need to feel secure. And we believe that that low apron wall, which is there now, we would replace it, but do the upper 24 inches with the new railing, with that baluster system to allow more visibility as well as a more appropriate response aesthetically, but also to maintain that sense of security for the table and chairs and to avoid people kicking debris onto the pedestrians below. So we thought it was a reasonable response on balance. In front of that apron wall, we proposed to hang some baskets for planters, because the vision I had for this was basically an iron-framed basket to hold, a planter box, not necessarily a framed planter box, but we could go that route if the board feels that that's more appropriate. We wanted to keep it somewhat porous so that it doesn't retain water and rot. If, let's say, we build a wooden box, we know that's going to have problems down the road. We're going to try to do this with seasonal plantings and maybe an iron fabrication to hold those plants. Again, to soften the facade and give it a little more vitality. To speak about the plan, one of the challenges we have and still have in front of us as designers and architects is to make this building more compliant when it comes to life safety factors. And as we mentioned, the current upper 2 floors, the 3rd and 4th floors, are not really used for more than storage at the moment. So the intention is to, if you look at page, let me get to it, the proposed floor plans on, let me find it, what is it, 2.1, sorry, give a little better feel for what's involved. We've taken a lot of careful study of the existing structure of this hotel restaurant building. And one of the things that we need to do is provide some degree of handicap accessibility for the 2nd floor, but also for at least one of the suites on the 3rd floor for the residential activity. And what we've done is we've traced back all the structure from the roof down to have the least amount of impact on the original framing, because it's quite complex, as you may be aware. And we've have been able to insert this limited-use elevator in the core and replace the 1st floor stair to the 2nd floor, which we've created a smoke-tight lobby. And we provided the 2 other means of egress for the upper floors as well. Obviously, we're scheduled to go before the Planning and Zoning Board, and we have this 2nd exit that's currently in the place of an existing exit, but it does not serve all 4 levels. It only serves the 2nd level, and we've tried to make it so that it can serve as a 2nd means of egress for all 4 levels. That's the one on the alley side where we've provided a recessed exit in order not to encroach into that alley, but to provide a legitimate 2nd means for the upper floors. The other stairwell that currently comes off of the elevator lobby is on the upper floors is served by a 2nd switchback stair that you can see, and we've provided the minimum number of toilets for the bar and restaurant facility on the first 2 levels. Just as a detail, the owners anticipate expanding. Basically, there's 2 kitchens in this facility. The 2nd floor kitchen is going to become more of a prep kitchen and cold storage facility for the operation. There is quite a bit of existing rooftop equipment behind that 2nd floor kitchen that was built some time ago, if you're familiar with it. One of the things that was made necessary by the life safety requirement of 2 means of egress was that we needed to expand the back portion of this building, the historic building, in a way that would permit us to structurally pull it off, basically, and also have the least amount of impact on the historic fabric. Now, there is impact, and that impact you can see on the side elevation. We've basically extended approximately, 16 feet. I can't even read my own drawings at this scale. But what we did was we proposed to clad it in exactly the same siding and using in a manner to resolve that polygonal roof configuration. It is a hip roof as exists, and it simply extends it on the second and third floors visually to Decatur Street. The materials that were proposed, as we talked about for the porch, for the addition and for restoring some of the water damage that is currently in place along Beach Avenue. If you've been by there recently, you've noticed that there's probably a lot. You can see the extensive water infiltration that's going on. This is from the Yankee gutter. We're proposing that that be repaired as part of this scope. And the owner is actually looking into some contractors that can do the job, but that'll be part of our ultimate package that we submit for construction, hopefully. And on the addition that we've proposed along the back side, we did show, if you look on page A2.3, we did propose a freeze band under those behind the brackets that is similar to what was done at the kitchen expansion. After looking at the existing conditions, I just believed that it was more, it was going to be a little bit more relief and a little cleaner installation for those corbels in that fourth floor roof area. But if that's something that the commission objects to, we can just follow the condition that we have along Decatur Street, which is simply the paired corbels with the smaller corbels at the window locations. Again, the thought was to tie in some of the detailing that was going on at the second floor kitchen mass.
On the plan, where am I here? A23, on those corbels that you just talked about,
Yes, sir.
the pattern on the existing is a corbel on each side of the window.
Yeah, small corbel, correct. And I see that, I see your comment already. It's not following suit, yes.
And you have it in the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can modify that. I think that what we would look at is perhaps either relocating the window to a central position and then flanking it with small corbels, or if we can't, then we will just follow suit with the rhythm that we have already established. So that's a correction that we will certainly make.
Yeah. So I have a question. Are you done presenting?
Pardon me?
Are you done presenting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. By the way, the detail that you've done on A2.2 and A2.6 is really helpful. Thank you for that, and for your detailed notes on A2.6. Very, very, very helpful. I think it's really clever what you've done with that knee wall to try and solve that 3'6" code issue relative to the lower railing that it would have been originally. My only question is this. The detail that you show of the railing on A2.2 differs from the detail in elevation you show on A2.6. Which one is it?
Yeah, the 2.6 holds.
That's what I thought, because it's the original.
That was an initial thing that snuck into the package.
Got it.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Thank you.
Is the owner going to maintain the second floor porch as a eating area?
I believe that's correct.
Yes.
But I believe that one of the reasons why the sliders were put there was, first of all, to protect against bugs during the summertime, and also so that air conditioning wouldn't. And also in the winter, when they were open through December, to be able to provide heat.
Correct, and I think the owner could speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So our plan is, I wanted to open that up to the outside so it could kind of retain that historical look of the building. And to retain heat in the summertime, we plan on having those vinyl drop-downs that are full window size.
And that would hold that would.
You mean
give air
to
conditioning
shield yourself
summer?
from the heat, not maintain the heat, right, in the summertime?
You have to retain
Oh,
the air
well,
conditioning.
either in the winter, so yeah.
Yeah, the project anticipates full redo of the mechanicals, which is quite an extensive job, because it was quite haphazard over the years, and we have a game plan we're ready to move forward with. But yeah, that was basically similar to what you used to have at the old Peter Shields Inn, I guess, those plastic screens, that zipper. Isn't that what we're talking about?
Yes, yeah. Same situation as Mad Batter. Right now, it's glass slider doors as the windows.
Other questions? Pip? Jim?
No, but I do want to, this is marked as seeking final approval, and did I understand that you still had zoning work to do?
We haven't been before the planning board yet, but we wanted to come to HPC first and then go.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of the gingerbread up front that's in disrepair that we want to get going before the summertime.
right, it's just that normally we would just give a conceptual approval if there were zoning aspects that
So
still
it's
need.
planning, not zoning, right?
We'll be going to the planning board, yes. We'll be going, because it's a permitted use, so we'll be at the planning board, yes.
Well, how many windows are you going to be replacing?
There's what, 7? They,
I didn't count them, but
oh,
there's
you mean,
replacing. I think most of the windows that are currently in place are a recent wood non-clad installation, and our intention is to match any new windows with that same exact spec, which I believe is a gel wind.
The
unclad.
gel wind, we're going to need a cut sheet
I gave, yeah, there should be a cut sheet in the application.
for the window, and on that cut sheet,
It says non-clad by Cape May.
yeah, it should
Cape May
talk
lumber.
about
Yeah,
Yeah, the old non-club.
primed.
yeah.
The other thing that I should mention that I think are going to be a very nice touch for the facade. The owner is already getting ready to have all of his ground floor doors along Beach Avenue rebuilt in mahogany, placed in kind with a mahogany custom
Good.
structure.
Yeah, and half of that gingerbread on the first floor is just plain missing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Our procedure would be to only provide conceptual approval tonight, not final, because you're still in the development stage, you still need to go to the planning board. When you're ready, when that's done, and you've made any changes to the plans, then you need to come back here, because you'll be applying for a construction permit at that point, and that's what this board gives approval for.
One question. I'd really like to get started with the gingerbread part at, the front of the building. Is there any way that I could get an approval to do any of the gingerbread up front, as we're missing large pieces in the front of the building, as well as the mahogany doors, to get started with them?
And the idea is to replace that same for same wood.
Yeah, so same design, and mahogany doors will have the brass fittings.
On this deal here, where you have replaced gingerbread with same for same, if we take that off of this, and you complete an application
As a minor.
to do this, then we can look at that in review.
Okay.
So that would be a separate application.
Yeah, you would need a drawing showing exactly what the spandrels are going to look like.
Okay.
Well, it's already here, isn't it? It's right here. It's at the back, unless he's got a new idea.
No, it's there.
I mean, the other thing that occurs to me, and this may be just an altered thing and not as acceptable as going through another application in a summary way, but you could get conceptual approval, which I think we're going to move for tonight, and it would be at your risk to proceed to go ahead and do the gingerbread, but unless there's something wild going on, I don't think you're going to make any big changes, it would be at your risk to make them, but if we grant you conceptual approval and you stick exactly to what you've provided,
I don't.
you don't like that one, huh?
No, I don't,
All right.
Jim, because remember, we have a compliance officer who is running around, and once he sees work being done and there's no
Yeah, I
application.
just thought he's going to be fabricating and not constructing. You sound like you want to
Yeah,
get
it's
cut.
6 weeks of fabrication, so, so yeah, I could get you guys a minor application and hopefully get an approval, within a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that would be.
Fine. Just suggested a less lawful alternative for you.
I think it would be like this way, so, yeah.
That's fine.
So we're going to take that off of this application.
Sure.
Any other questions or observations on this project? Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move to approve with the two stipulations about removing the gingerbread from the application and making sure that that PVC reference is deleted.
Yeah, on the plan.
Yep,
Yeah, because it's clear on the materials list.
yep.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And that's for conceptual, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Stevenson. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, members of the board, thank you.
Next order of business, 429 Beach, no.
No, no.
Next order of business,
Let's not do it again.
Jersey Development LLC, 18 Reading Avenue, Block 1115, Lot 17.02. This is for a new single-family home. Hello, Scott.
Good evening. Good evening, Board. Scott Peter, applicant here tonight for 18 Reading Avenue, Block 1115, Lot 17.01. This was a prior application. I think we had 2 or 3 visits, and there was several recommendations made. The last and final visit was for the mini garage we have, was kind of shifted more towards the direction of north to provide additional parking on the plan. We were able to do that, so you have the most recent updated plans in front of you, along with all the other original recommendations as well. That pretty much concludes the one and only item I had, but happy to answer any questions or take any recommendations.
Scott, could you please speak into your mic?
Yep, happy to take any recommendations from the board or, of course, the public.
So I only have one question. On the elevations, the front elevation on A2, on the first floor deck or porch, there's not a railing, and is there one that's required because you're more than 2.5 feet above grade there, or not?
It looks like we were able to work out the grades, and that was one of the recommendations made by, I believe, Mr. Carroll, was to eliminate that, given we can work that out. As long as it's under 30 inches.
Correct.
We're not going to be required for a railing, and it looks like, based on the field grades and the flood elevation, we're going to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, because right now, the drawings show a 3-foot difference between the deck height and grade.
That's from grade, but we often do a berm and landscaping, kind of berm it up, and we'll usually gain that 6 inches.
Good, okay, thanks.
Other questions or observations? Yes, could we go to, would you push the,
Hi, I'm Catherine Davis. I'm at 1127 New Jersey Avenue, which is actually direct, can you hear me? Sorry.
say, green?
Yeah, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
There, tall. It's actually directly across the street, even though this has a Reading Avenue address. I think in the subdivision, it got a Reading Avenue address, but the front of this home is New Jersey Avenue, and it is a corner. I'm directly across the street. My comment is, and it's too bad Tom's not here. He had most of the, when I went to review the documents, he had made most of the notes. The garage is sort of, if the house were actually on Reading, it would be behind it, but the house is on New Jersey, so if you look at the elevation, the front plan that shows New Jersey, and then the top plan, there's just sort of a shed now sitting on the lawn, and if you are driving down New Jersey, it's just sort of, the back of it faces New Jersey, or I guess the side. And I went and I actually took photos of all the corner houses, mine is one. I really had to hide my garage. So it's misleading because we call this Reading, but the front plan is New Jersey, and it doesn't show that this additional structure is just sort of sitting there. Before, it was tucked more into the driveway, and there is no landscape plan, so I can't see, if anyone on New Jersey were there, you'd just sort of see the back of it or side of a shed sitting in the middle of a side lawn, which is incongruous to the streetscape. Nobody else has that all up and down New Jersey on the corners. I took pictures on my phone, but probably don't want to look at my phone.
Yeah, could you just help me with your comment?
Sure.
Yeah, Reading Avenue is here, New Jersey Avenue is here, and the storage that you're talking about.
Yes. So this is, yeah.
So how,
New Jersey, so it just sort of, you look at
Just-
the back.
it's the back of this
Front of
garage.
New Jersey, you see the back of a shed, which is, normally it would be like over here. Mine is sitting right here. Maybe you can explain what I'm saying.
yeah, no, I understand.
I understand you're saying you have to have the back of a garage facing New Jersey.
Yeah, and
That's
this
what I
house
hear.
is not on Reading Avenue. This house is frontage on New Jersey. And it's a corner, so it has two front yards. And I went through this with mine. We really moved it.
No, I understand now. So the question is,
But Tom wanted
Would
it moved to make more parking, which I also support. It's a difficult
Would a-
situation.
would a landscaping plan answer some of your concern?
It would and it wouldn't. It would, because I personally wouldn't have to look at it, so yes, that's lovely. But as far as precedent, do we want to put sheds on New Jersey Avenue, backwards facing? So yes and no is my answer. Sure, I wouldn't have to look at it, but
But if you made the back look like the front.
there are, right next to it
Would that be
is,
better than landscaping?
they're both good. Right next to it is a garage, a very attractive front. It's, the White House on New Jersey Avenue that's right next to it. It's just not the back. It's just about how it looks. I don't think on New Jersey Avenue there should be but I fully support moving it to make more parking. That will help everybody.
My intention was, once I got this underway, was come back in and do a fence also. So we were going to fence across the front of that with landscaping. I didn't complicate it with the fence earlier on because I was more concerned with getting the house underway. But that is my plan, to put a fence in there so you won't see that. Earlier on, we did have the shed shifted towards the east, but we opted to move that based on one of the recommendations to provide more parking.
Anyone?
Well, of course, this is an application for final approval, so you can't come back with the fence later. You have to show it to us now in the landscaping plan.
And then I'll object
Yeah.
to having the fence. I mean, this is my third go at it with this application. I've done everything the board has requested. For moving the garage, shrinking the garage, I mean, I've really worked hard to get to me where I'm at today. I understand the comments from the neighbor, and I really took a lot of that into consideration in designing this building. I think you've been active in every one of my visits. One was shrinking the building, one was bringing the footprint smaller, one was making it not 3 stories. So I really, really, really made every concession I could make on this application.
Great, we love those porches on the back, but,
Again, I want to remind you, this is not a historic structure. This was just
Right, we have a
a
non-contributing.
compliment. This is a compliment to the zone.
What-
So,
What we could consider maybe is a final with a condition of a fence and a landscape plan.
And then could the fencing be done in review?
Yes.
Well, someone's going to have to decide whether the condition is satisfied, so presumably it's the review committee.
that works for me. Thank you.
Can we do that? All right, make a motion?
Yeah.
All right. Motion to approve as submitted for final, but subject to the condition that a fencing plan and landscaping plan be submitted for review and approval by the review committee.
I'll second that.
Is there a time frame that would work for you to do that?
I can do within the next 30 days.
We'll make that part of the
Within 30 days,
motion.
Thank you.
we'll add that to the motion.
I'm sorry, that the submission that the conditions be fulfilled with the submissions within the next 30 days. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Part of my motion,
We ready?
and part of what you second.
Second.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes,
Thank you, Board. Thank you so much.
thank you. Next order of business is Conrad, 347 Congress Street, Block 1031, lots 82 and 83. This is a contributing property. It's a renovation and addition, garage and a pool. Would you push the button there and make sure you're green? There you go.
Good evening. My name is Paul Kiss. I'm the project architect with OSK Design Partners, and the homeowners, Bill and Dee Conrad, are here with me.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
So I put what was in the packet on the larger board so we could more
Thank you.
easily follow along. So introduction to the existing property is a photo board that shows the conditions. According to the historic report, the home was probably built in the late 1920s, and it's mostly, as far as we could tell, remained unchanged. There is evidence that the house received a new foundation at some point and was lifted up. And there is evidence that there was living space in the new basement, laundry room, kitchen, bedroom. Those have been removed, and it's just the evidence is there. The condition is not good of the house. It's suffered a lot of neglect over the years, has not really been maintained. The Conrads have been residents in the area for a long time, saw the property, it's a very nice property, and decided we want to make this our forever home. The intent is that this is their full-time residence. A couple of things about the house that we wanted to improve is it's currently below the city's flood ordinance elevation. We want to raise it to meet that. It's also less than 1.5 feet from the right side property line, adjacent to the house to the right. It's only about 1.44 feet off the property line here. We wanted to move this over to just get it away from the property line, create a side yard. It increases fire safety to not have a house right on the property line, as you know. So now, because this is a full-time home, we need more space. So putting an addition to the rear of the property, the concept is the existing building remains in the front. Where it joins the addition, we pinched it so it's clearly visible where the existing building stops and the addition starts. To get the required number of bedrooms, we talked about a 2-story addition in the back. Thought that would pretty much overwhelm the existing structure. So the other aspect of the site, sorry, I just want to make sure I don't forget anything. The other aspect of the site is there's a garage that maybe was built in mid-20th century. We want to remove that. There's nothing historic at all about it. And build a new garage, sort of carriage house style, all the way in the back corner of the property. Behind the addition would be a covered porch and pool. not visible at all from the front of the property or the street. When it comes to moving the building, we went back and forth with the zoning department. One of the issues on this block is you go by prevailing front yard setback, but there's only 3 buildings on this section of Congress Street. So we ended up agreeing on the prevailing setback, so when we move the building over and lift it, we would push it back about 4 or 5 feet to meet the front yard setback. And with all of that, we got the permit from the zoning department, zoning permit. So the approach to the renovation may be a little unusual. So the idea is, well, let me see how best to describe this. On the left of the photo sheet, which is PH1 in your packet, there's an example of a bungalow cottage circa 1912 in Avalon, where we had the same thing that my clients wanted to do, create additional bedroom space without losing the character of the bungalow. So I'm proposing to do something very similar to this building, where we put a second floor in following, and I'm following the Cape May's design standards and the national standards, to just slightly lift the roof and add dormers to the side. And this is the before and after of the project in Avalon. So it maintains that bungalow scale as if someone in the 1920s put a second floor on the building. With that, the scale of the original building and proportion of a classic bungalow is maintained, and the addition to the back is actually can be slightly lower and still achieve what's necessary. By landscape screening on the left and the right, really all you see from the street is the original building. The existing windows are all maintained and restored. So everything on the original building is repaired or replaced in kind. The one thing that I noticed was not on the drawing is the gutters and downspouts, which existing, some are on, some are falling off, but they're half-round white gutters and downspouts, which is what we would be proposing. So a couple of the Secretary of Interior standards that we're addressing, and I'm just going to quote: "The proposed work will not destroy the historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property, keeping the large side yard that exists, for example. It's compatible with historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment." Addressing standard number 10, the new construction is undertaken in such a manner that if the new construction is removed, the essential character of the original building is maintained. So that gets into the materials for the new building. Part of the standards are that you differentiate old to new. So the idea I'm throwing out there is we use modern materials painted and replicating traditional materials on the addition. So anybody looking at it knows that was not part of the original building. Although aesthetically it all blends because it's painted material even though it may be synthetic.
That standard has been modified over the last couple of years. That's what happened with that standard is to make it different material, then, you know, you would go like to Valley Forge and you would see this stone barn with this glass and metal frame addition. So that standard has been modified, and we'd probably look for materials to match.
To match the original. And that's fine. Yeah, if that's the preference, then we'll use all traditional materials, the same as what's in the original building. So, you know, coming out of Cape May's design standards, we situated the addition to minimally affect the public's perception. One of the other things we achieved by moving the building over a little bit is that the addition isn't all on one side. It's sort of averaged. The addition is located to the rear of the structure, clearly differentiated by creating an offset, kind of hiding the entrance door into the living space. So the living space is to the rear, overlooking the backyard. What you see in the front is really what you see now. But that is where the owner's bedroom suite will be, a den, play area for grandkids, things like that. So it maintains the scale of the addition, in my opinion, because we're putting an addition on as it would have been done originally as a bungalow with a second floor with dormers out the side. And the screen porch, the pool, everything is the backyard, not visible at all to public right away.
So you're raising the first floor elevation about 4 inches, is that correct?
It's just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
You're raising did I understand you to say you're raising the roof, the ridge?
So, yes, so let's see, it might be,
I mean, it looks like, what, a 512 pitch or something, and you're moving it to what?
so we're maintaining the pitch. The existing roof is here. We're raising it up about 2.5 to 3 feet with the same roof pitch, and then adding dormers at the sides.
The issue is, the city has charming little bungalows all over the place, and they keep being modified so there won't be any bungalows. When you move a property, that has an impact on its historic significance. So you're moving it over and you're moving it back. And then you're changing the pitch of the original, not the pitch, but
The height.
the height of the ridge. And I'd be interested in comments from the group, but all of a sudden, this is no longer a contributing property. There's substantial difference.
That's my concern. I think this is an admirable work. It's really handsome and obviously fulfills the functions that the owners want, but I'm concerned that it is so substantial that it may cause the structure to lose its contributing designation. That's the problem here. It is really big, it's useful, it's pretty, but it's so significant that it may no longer be a contributing structure. And I don't know where we go for the expertise on that. Everybody seems to have his own opinion, but that's my biggest worry here, aside from a couple of...
It does change it. The expertise is here.
Well,
Yeah, there's no argument it's changing it. Some of it has to do with, the zoning and getting it a little
Yeah.
safer. The other is
no,
trying to do it.
to me, no problem with the minor moves. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a small move back to conform, and it's a necessary move to the side. That part doesn't bother me. The significance of the overall is what troubles me.
Yeah, the problem is when you start accumulating all these things. If you were looking at one exception, that's one thing, but when you start having multiple exceptions, I think this would no longer be a contributing property. It's been moved, it's increased in height, it has an addition, I mean,
Yeah,
I would look for something a little bit more conservative
so we
for the
tried,
front building.
we tried that first, but the addition sort of overwhelmed the original building, although it would clearly differentiate, the new from the old, but it ended up being just kind of too tall. And this kept the scale of everything more in line. And my thinking was because if you had a two-story bungalow, you'd have higher walls on the side and you'd have dormers just like what I've designed.
Well,
But I know that's not what's originally there, I understand.
well, and on bungalows, this group has approved dormers on the side, and they've approved some modest additions in the back that weren't visible from the street. So, you've got a lot of things going here, and maintaining the National Historic Landmark is retaining contributing properties in a contributing manner. And I would agree with Jim's comments. I mean, it's a great effort, a professional effort, and it looks nice, but it doesn't meet, in my estimation, it doesn't meet the Cape May standards of preserving this city. I would expect.
Another challenge that you have is that the lot is pretty wide, so the streetscape view of what we're looking at brings the viewer all the way over to here, which gives him a lot of view to the back. I mean, if it were, we've done situations where we've had narrow lots and there's been substantial additions in the back, but you couldn't see them. And here, I mean, it's nice you have a wide lot, because I'd rather have a wide lot too. But you, in staying where the driveway ramp is, you actually can now see everything added to the back. That kind of counts against the size. Also, it has a front-facing garage, which is another issue for this board. It's far back, or relatively far back, but we're not into front-facing garages to the main street.
Yeah, so I understand. That's why we would propose heavy landscape screening. I'm not sure how you can do a garage with all the limitations on coverage and not have it face the street.
Well, unfortunately, there's a pool that is, I'm going to want to redesign for you, but I just point out, we're not in the habit of approving front-facing garages.
There's just a lot going on here.
If they're back far enough, yeah.
Pip, do you have a thought?
No, I think it's not a problem that this is moved, that, it's such a little tiny move. And I live right around here, and this is a huge, big lot, and right now, there's so much stuff, you can't even see that side lot, really. I mean, you'd have to look twice to realize, oh, there's a side lot there. So I wonder if there isn't a way of maybe taking better advantage of that side lot, or so that, I don't know exactly what, because I don't know how to design at all. But I do think that that's a lot of property. It's a big property, especially for Congress Street. And maybe there's a way of still getting what you want for space, but maybe camouflaging it a little more without having that T. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Like, here's the house, and then here's this T. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. But I don't think bringing the addition up into the side yard would
Oh, no, I'm
help
not
with that.
suggesting
Yeah.
that. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that there is so much side yard, that it's such a big property. Is there another way? That's all I was saying. And I don't know that there is.
I think it's landscaping.
Could be.
Aren't there some, as you're facing it, on the left side, right at the property line, aren't there some large trees there now?
Yes.
There are.
And that's what masks you from seeing
I mean,
that side yard.
You could do something like a Leyland cypress border, which they get big and they, you know, but we're still putting the addition, we're still putting the addition on, it's just we hiding it, that's.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think moving it's the issue. You are to be congratulated that you were able to pull this off by only raising the ridge about 4 feet. I mean, that's kind of impressive, but what's interesting is, if you look at the second floor, you're not getting that much for raising it to 4 feet because so much of it's attic. Whereas if some sort of revised strategy where the bungalow was left pretty much as it is, and the addition was out the back and then goes up, and it could be kind of hidden with some landscaping in a way, and even that distance would recede the impact of the mass on the street, you could still very likely achieve the kinds of spatial square footage you're seeking by doing that. Might be just a different strategy to approach this. This is a tough challenge, this one. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's possible. I mean, the idea of a bungalow is just that. It's modest, it's small, and it fits the cityscape.
So I have a question about that, Warren. If there was, let's say, a smaller connector out of the back of the bungalow and a larger volume behind, clearly an addition, I mean, not attempting to make it look at all like it was an original structure, would that obviate its ability to still qualify as a contributing structure?
I think, yes.
You would?
Well, I believe the addition, to the earlier point, theoretically, if you remove the addition, the contributing structure
Yeah.
is
Could remain.
is returned.
Yes.
That's not the case here. because you're-
No, but I mean, if
not what John was telling us.
if he was to
You put
do a different
something
strategy, so
separate.
basically, I'm thinking that the little bungalow stays, a sort of slightly recessed connector, so that it's very, almost like it was a reveal, you know,
Like a hyphen.
kind of.
Well, more than what was proposed
Well,
already.
I think the problem here is that so that looks like it's a direct extension of the existing bungalow, as opposed to it clearly being a structure that has been added with a connector. And I know that it's going to be a challenge with regard to functionally how the spaces work and flow, but I'll bet you could do it. You're clearly a skillful enough architect to figure that out. It's just a different challenge.
Yeah, it's a different approach. I
It
just
is.
don't know that, I know that because the original is so low, there's no space up in the attic.
Well, and that's what I'm,
The addition is going to be,
and I wouldn't even try to put any up there
Yeah, no.
anymore, right? It's basically a found object to which you've added an object.
so, yeah, so, I mean, I hear you clearly. The existing bungalow needs to stay the volume it is now. The challenge is making that addition work with the existing bungalow.
So if you go like up on Congress Street and up on Windsor Street, on the 2 blocks above, they're almost 100, well, not 100%, but close to 100% bungalows. And you'd probably see that are contributing. And you would probably see a lot of ways that people have increased their space. Wait.
They're on single lots. We have a whole other lot, so it's, if we just had a bungalow and that's all we're allowed to have, then we have a whole other lot that is,
I see the idea is
Useless.
that for it to be big enough, for it to be our forever home where we're going to live and reside, we needed more space. And the prior owner, I understood, tried to subdivide that lot to do 2 houses, and that was not allowed after 2 attempts. So we thought a better utilization of that space would be to put that addition on the back.
There's no doubt it's a better utilization of the space. The problem is that it conflicts with keeping it as the bungalow as a contributing structure.
Yeah.
In every way, you've improved the space and given yourself what you want. It just crosses the line in most of our views as to whether this continues to be contributing, and that we can't allow.
And it's good news that you have that larger lot, because that will give you enough, I'll call it volume of area, square footage of ground area, that you can move a larger piece back there and still not encroach and diminish its mass on the street relative to the little bungalow. You're following this discussion, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Warren, are you saying then that if there was a larger addition on the back that was clearly an addition, not just an extension of the same width of piece, right? That you could, it's likely you could maintain its contributing status because you could always remove the addition and the existing would remain. Is that correct? So that's the way to think about it. Yeah.
Which would be like a narrow hallway, or as they used to do back in colonial times, a hyphen between two sections of the house.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and if you get a hyphen there, you can could take that out and be a standalone structure, so.
So, oh, no, I totally get it.
Also,
No fair passing signs around.
Sorry.
But, John, you made a suggestion similarly about a year ago. There was, people faced the same problem, you suggested it, and it went over pretty well.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's great. I guess,
Also, there's a number of other issues, though. Also, the roof pitch on the addition could be modified in such a way that it wouldn't be so visible if you maintain the cottage the way it was. I presume your first floor level is the same between the addition and the original structure.
actually, the addition to the rear, oh, no, it is the same. Yes, that was another thing we tried. Yes, it's the same.
Well, so if you start looking at the pitch, if you start looking at maybe a step down, you can get that addition.
Well, and that's where I was going with that. We looked at the step down, but we can't because we're at the minimum flood elevation
flood.
now.
Yeah, the
We'd have
flood,
to lift
yeah.
the bungalow higher in order to achieve that, which, I think we'd be willing to go a little higher with the bungalow in front. Now we're getting, we can't be any lower with it.
Right, but your lift right now is about 4 inches,
Yeah.
you said, so.
So if
The
we
only
lifted
thing
it.
is lifting the bungalow can continue to retain its contributing notion according to the ordinance that we have in Cape May. So you could, I'm not suggesting you do this, but for conversation, you could lift the bungalow 2 feet above the base flood elevation, and screen that with landscaping and things.
Foundation plantings.
So I can't quite read the numbers, but it's at 10.2, and you've raised it to 10.5. Is that, am I reading that accurately?
Yes.
So I think that means Warren is saying you could lift it up to 12?
Well, I don't know.
Whatever is flood
We
elevation.
need a
Whatever flood
survey.
elevation, yeah, okay.
A survey to
Yeah.
know.
Right, the first floor elevation is required to be 10.5, and it's 10.2 now. So we can't be lower than 10.5. But
But you could go to 11.5.
if you'd be agreeable, well, I was trying to keep the cottage from not being too high out of the ground, too. So it's,
You've got things pressing in each direction.
Yeah, you do, but
If you berm up, it won't look quite as high above the ground.
we can do that, sure.
I mean,
I just think there's some more, to get this much space and to retain its contributing status, some modifications all over the place. Instead of raising it 5 inches or something, raise it a foot. And in the back, change that pitch a little bit, and then that might give you room for the step down. So now the bungalow is higher and the addition
Right,
is
right.
theoretically lower. But I just think to make this work, you're going to have to rethink, and you may not get as much square footage as you would like. We haven't even talked about the garage. The garage doesn't fit the bungalow at all. That's like a whole separate structure. And so it's a front entrance garage. Now admittedly, the garage is set deep into the property, which we have approved in the past. But this particular garage is large. I mean, this is
It's garage and workshop.
this is bigger than the house, than the cottage, I think. So, you know, I want to be helpful and supportive, but we have to maintain these cottages. If I were to share with you of all the concerns that I hear from citizens, I hear everything, of course, but it's pretty consistent, this concern about losing bungalows. And on the other hand, they're so small, it's difficult to live in them. So we try to balance this out with what the aspirations are from the landmark status and the community, and what your needs are. I just think this has been maxed out, and it looks nice, but doesn't work.
So I mean, I can certainly work with leaving the bungalow, lifting it maybe a little higher, reworking that back to minimize it. I guess the question would be about fitting a workshop garage that's not a front entrance along with the pool. Now, if we put the pool in the side yard and screened it, I think we could probably, work with that.
And then where would the garage go?
Well,
Round back. Round back.
You'd have to turn somehow, I don't know, I'd have to figure that out.
Yeah, but I mean,
Maybe you drive all the way down the left side and in that way.
well,
You need space for that, and we wouldn't be able to do the pool there then, so it would have to be,
putting a garage in the back with a turnaround makes sense.
Yes, if it's turned, you might be able to back it around and pull out instead of backing all the way across and keeping on the two strips,
yeah.
And if you did that, you could maybe get away with just one set of strips too.
Yeah, I think you're right. But we would,
You have to provide.
I think we'd have to put the pool in the side.
Well, we have approved pools in the side yard with landscaping, and in fact, we've even, the legal term for the deed restriction, to maintain landscaping, because, we could all agree, and then you sell the property, and all of a sudden, the landscaping dies. Anyway, I would suggest we table this. Give you an opportunity to digest some of the concerns that we have. And try to come back with a plan that may be more acceptable.
And then the question is, which side is the pool on? Because south is, because the way this lot is, south would be to the right side of the house if you wanted it to be exposed to the sun. So you've got quite a chessboard to play with here. Actually, I was just thinking, I was having an image of the garage and the bungalow as sort of two little cottages, and then the larger piece in the back, the two-story piece, is like a third cottage, and at least two of them are connected, but you can't quite tell that. It almost looks like a little complex, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the garage, the way it's currently designed is attractive, but it's,
Can I ask a question here? You said you have no problem with moving the bungalow.
None.
Most
Some people
of
here-
us don't.
some
of us
people here
do.
don't have a problem. But no.
I'm just a
moving it a
random
little
thought
bit.
here. Will we be able to move that bungalow to the other lot that we have?
To where?
The other side?
Just move it all the way to the
It's a
other
double
side.
lot now. Would we be able to move it to the other side?
I wouldn't have a problem with that. Would anybody here have a problem with that?
To what end?
Well, because the exposure of the pool to the south, I mean, if you look at the way the site's oriented, they put the pool on the left of the house, then the shadow of the house, it's on the north
I
side.
missed that part, okay.
Just a thought, I wanted to throw it out there.
Well, I was going to ask the same question, can we move it somewhere else to help achieve all these other goals?
Well, moving it a couple feet one way is,
I think what the
Is accepted.
Secretary of the Interior means is don't move it 3 blocks.
well,
Like a large portion of Cape May has already been moved.
There's one block.
Right, I think that's what they move, is don't put it in another place.
There's so much here to consider. Moving it very far is just another thing that would make it more complicated.
Don't put it
in
on
my
a
view.
truck, right?
And
well, they're going to have to put it on a truck if they move it.
can we make a
to the
motion,
center.
motion to table this application, subject to waiving the 45-day period? I'll make that.
I think we have to table it. I don't hear,
Well, I'd be happy to have the opportunity to go back and re-look at it after, hearing all of your input.
And we can't give conceptual approval to it, so
No.
putting it on the table and waiving the period for you to come back, I think, is the best solution we can give you.
What does that mean, waiving the period to come back?
You can't, not acting on this in 45 days
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
make our
I got you.
decision become final.
So when you say we have 45 days,
You waive the 45-day period.
So we're not
Council-
limited.
Council will explain to you.
So we're not limited, right?
We're required to act, once the application is complete, we're required to act on it one way or another within 45 days. So you can tell us that you consent to waiving that, we don't have to act. If you didn't, the board would have to deny. So that's the thought behind it.
Yes.
do I have a motion?
I think I made it, but I'll make it again. Move to table the pending application.
Do I have a
subject-
second?
Waiver of the 45-day time period.
Another observation, my learned friend here was talking about putting the pool on the east side of the building. If you want the good sun of the day, you put it on the west side.
Well, if you look at it, that's.
We're gonna
Do
vote
I,
on this motion?
do I have a second?
I thought you, I
Oh,
Yep.
Pip seconded, okay.
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm sure we will.
Next order of business, Pyfrin, 213 Grant Street, Block 1022, Lot 24. It's a contributing property, a new front porch, roof, windows, siding, HVAC.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name's Pam Fine. I'm with Fine Architecture. I'm the project architect behind 213 Grand Street Renovation. And here with me tonight is my client and owner, Mr. Joseph Pyfrin.
Welcome.
Okay, so I'll start. I think the property report sheet with the front-facing photo is really a good indication of what we're proposing to do to the materials of the house. So I'll start with the wood clapboard. We have existing wood clapboard, existing wood corner boards. It's in really bad shape. There's a lot of cracking, a lot of twisting. There's actually more caulk holding it together than there actually is wood right now. So we're proposing removing that. We're going to put painted wood clapboard in its place to match existing style. The windows are also being replaced with Geldwin wood windows, non-clad, and same exact style, 6/6s. There is a change to the front 2 windows on the first floor. You'll see in that photo that I mentioned, there's a ghost line of it's either an old very large window or 2 doors flanking the center door. So we're proposing putting in a large window on each side. It's going to be a prairie style. The upper sash is going to be shorter, the lower sash is going to be longer, but it's basically going to take up that space that you see those longer shutters are existing in today. So we're going to fill that void with that oddly shaped window. On the left side of the house, we have an existing side door. We're going to be replacing that with a window that will match the rest of the home. So that's going to clean that side up a little bit. I'll jump to the roof. We are proposing on paper the GAF asphalt shingles. In a perfect world, we would love to put cedar on there, but obviously that's going to come down to availability and budget. So we're proposing on paper the GAF, but we would love to have the opportunity to put cedar shake on the main house roof. Towards the back of the house, we have some very low-pitched roofs that are existing. We're proposing ATAS standing seam metal roofs along the back. And then that brings me to the front porch. So the front porch, we have the existing is basically a flat roof. It leaks terribly. Right now, it's what is it, a metal roof on there? Tin roof. And there's basically no pitch to it. So in the application that we submitted, I made changes to drop the porch beam lower and propose a steeper porch roof. So we are modifying that. This was a late change. So we're leaving the porch as it exists today. Columns, beam, the soffit, all of that detail will remain. We're just proposing actually building and overframing a roof above the flat portion to about 4 inches below of where the bottom of the second floor windowsill lies. So it's just going to peek over the edge of the fascia, and that will be covered in metal as well. So we'll have the metal standing seam in the front, hopefully cedar along the top ridge, and then the back will continue with the metal standing seam. Let me see if I missed anything. Decking on the front, we're proposing composite decking to replace that. We have a new AC unit enclosure along the back, which will be painted wood. And I believe everything else is proposed to remain. We're going to carry around the shutter look to the sides of the house for continuity. Those will be operable shutters and will match the existing style that is there today.
Couple comments. Number one, the building was built in 1870. Those windows on the front where the shutter goes all the way to the floor were probably coffin windows. You know what a coffin window is?
I don't think I know the term. Maybe if you described it.
Went to top to the floor because funerals, they were handed in the parlor, and they take the coffin out through the window.
God, I understand.
So, and they would have on both sides the same way.
Okay.
Probably no.
Were they double?
Probably no need for that today.
But in order to maintain actually the integrity, that's what you should put back there, is that type of window.
I've seen double doors, smaller French door types in that case as well. Is that the same, or is it actually a window with a
Actually,
sash?
if you look at 725 Columbia Avenue, which is a Carpenter Gothic built 1872,
What was the address?
725,
725 Carpenter?
no, Columbia.
Columbia, okay.
Has the full windows, still has the full windows in it. Originally, they were triple track windows, they would go, so, and the porch roof. Have you thought of putting a coating of Acromax on it?
I think we have, you've put many, many, many coatings.
It has probably, maybe 30 gallons of that silver on it through the years.
Is that, I mean, Acromax is different from the silver you get in the hardware store. Acromax is a product that was developed here in Cape May for standing seam roofs and for other roofs.
And many of us have used it, Corbin, but it may be that he has no metal left.
It's gone.
I mean, if it's a tin roof that has no tin, there's no point in coating it with
Destroyed
Acromax.
the porch underneath the roof.
Yeah,
I had, again, I use it on
I've used it all over.
Yeah.
It's great stuff, but you should have something fine underneath as a
If
foundation.
if you want to just raise the pitch maybe that much, that would give you enough pitch for the water running off of it. And that would not be noticeable. Because you do have a beautiful front door there. If you lower that beam, it's gonna, hide that.
We're not going to lower the beam.
So the elevations that we're looking at, looks like you lowered the beam 16
We're
inches.
changing that, right.
So what's the accurate,
So it's going to stay 9'4".
it is, okay.
Yes.
As opposed to 8 feet? Mm-hmm. And then how are you handling the pitch? You're just,
If you look in the front picture of the property report, you can kind of see there's space below the second floor windowsill.
yeah.
So we're just going to come up about 4 inches
I
below
see.
that windowsill.
That's gonna give you enough of
It's
a
gonna-
pitch.
It'll be something. It's just not going to be a whole lot like we were proposing.
Yeah, my only other comment is with regard to those first floor windows, it's significantly to me, my eye, and a colonial revival house shifts it when the width of the windows on the first floor main facade are almost the same as the second floor. Them being wider was very, very common. I didn't realize it was for coffin windows, but that's what I would have expected, seeing a colonial revival house. And now that you've made them 6/6 instead of 8/8, I think it changes the character significantly.
So you prefer the wider?
Well, it's not that I prefer it, it's what is more historically accurate.
Okay.
I'm sure that it isn't going to be historically accurate to put a composite deck on this house.
Well.
So composite deck, no.
Yeah.
That was my next thing, is a good mahogany deck, if you take care of it, which means you have to oil it once a year, it'll last 20, 30 years, even longer, if you're religious about it.
And your application in discussing putting asphalt shingles on the roof, I assume you can tell us that you've examined and you don't find evidence of original shingle material, original roofing material?
I didn't see any evidence of that, no.
'Cause that's been a current issue about later and subsequent discoveries of original materials when we've been led to believe that asphalt was fine because it was essentially same for same. So you're saying there is no evidence that you've found on examination of original shake roofs, for example?
I wasn't able to get up into the attic. The attic access is blocked, so from the outside, it doesn't look like there's any evidence of any existing cedar there, so.
Well, the problem is when you
take the asphalt
when you
off.
take the shingles off, and if the shingles, you should be able to tell if it's nailed over wood.
I really don't have a problem with going with cedar shake.
I think cedar shakes would be a real improvement on this property, and in fact, I don't know what the side or backyards are, but at least on the front yard, cedar shakes.
I'd do the entire original roof,
I
front and back.
Yeah, I think that would be a real improvement. The composite, we got sidetracked. The composite decking is not appropriate on a contributing
Okay.
property. You know, the mahogany works.
How about E-Pay? You're okay with
Yeah,
E-Pay?
we've approved a lot of E-Pay.
The same thing goes with that. Use like a teak oil on it. If you paint it, it's going to rot.
Pam, one of the things I'm looking at, and I have confidence in you and what you're presenting, so it's not a problem, but I'd like to document the file.
Okay.
The Geldwin windows, if you look at Cape May lumber, the window that we're looking for normally shows on the spec sheet that it's primed.
Primed, okay.
And I don't see that.
Okay,
Maybe I missed it, but.
okay. That was just straight from the catalog, so,
and-
yeah.
And so the spec sheet that we would like to see is the one, it's very clear and they can help you.
Okay.
So what would you like with the two front windows?
I don't have as much problem with the two front windows as some, so,
Well, I can say that there are, on Columbia, there are 5 out of the 7 houses all have the two-part windows.
Double hung windows. I would imagine most of them have been replaced years ago, back in the 20s.
you're proposing a double hung window.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them not going to the deck. Double hung's fine, it's just that they're significantly wider than, you've made them narrower, made them 6/6 instead of 8/8.
Do you want to keep the original width of what you see there and just go
What-
taller?
What these windows are? I'm fairly certain that these are windows that were put in the 50s.
No, what I'm saying is, you've filled in the window opening to make the windows on the first floor narrower. That's the issue that I'm having.
Right.
Which is not
To
historically
match
accurate.
essentially come very close to the width of the windows on the second floor.
Well, that's what wouldn't have been done as a colonial revival from this period. Those first floor windows would have been wider than the second floor windows.
Okay.
So I'm not, so where are we leaving that? It seems to me, Geraldine, you can get the 8/8.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, so all I'm suggesting is just go back to the 8/8. Again, I don't have a problem with them not going to grade.
I don't either.
Just having a sill is
I'm
fine.
saying that's what they would have been originally.
Yeah. And
Geez, we've milked this, haven't we?
Well, I think we're through with the coffins. Can I make a motion here so we can move
Please.
this along?
Yeah.
But we're at a point of giving this conceptual approval, I think.
Well, they're looking for final,
Yeah, but
I understand you need construction drawings, so,
and the cut sheets and stuff.
yeah.
So I don't know we can do better than give it conceptual
Okay.
approval. And so I will move that the application be granted with conceptual approval. Do we want to put additional recommendations formally into that conceptual approval from what we've discussed, or is that good enough?
Well, I think there were 4 issues. One is the no composite deck, 2 wider first floor windows to match the existing, not dropping the porch beam, and window spec.
And that would be fine to insert. We would expect to see those in the final approval application, where you would go through and
And did you say cedar roof?
Oh, I did not say that.
The applicant seems to have undertaken to put a cedar shake roof on it, which would be terrific.
Yeah.
So 5 issues.
Marvelous,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
marvelous.
Should we need to
wait a
we need to
minute.
actually
That
vote
needs to
on
be-
We have to
this?
vote.
That needs to be seconded, right?
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Ms. Campbell? Yes. Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the later it gets, the groggier we get.
Okay.
I'll watch the rest of it.
Next order of business is Walters, 223 North Street, Block 1031, Lot 41. This is a contributing property. Renovations, additions, a pool, and a garage. Got a lot of pool and garage things going on here.
Mr. President, again, my property actually abuts this in the rear, so I have to recuse myself.
Okay.
Busy neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
Sending all your neighbors over here.
Good evening. Adam Carlson with Backus Associates, the project manager, here with the owner of the property, Sean Walters. We got approval earlier this evening for the property directly next door. This is a very similar application to that. I'll start with going through the drawings. Sheet HC1 is just the streetscape photographs, and then shows the proposed front elevations, which really, we're not proposing any changes to the front of the existing building to preserve the streetscape. Sheet ZP1, on the left side, you'll see the existing plot or site plan. On the right side, you'll see the proposed. You'll see we're filling in an area at the back of the building and adding a rear porch, a pool, and a proposed garage, a single-car garage. Sheet ZP2 shows the existing floor plans as is. ZP3 shows the existing exterior elevations, all 4 sides. ZP4 is showing the proposed floor plans. ZP5 is showing the proposed elevations. Very similar to the project next door that we got approved earlier. We're basically the addition on the back. We're going to mimic the roof profile of the front of the house and put it on the back, so when this addition is done, it kind of looks like it was all part of the original building when it was built. We did revise the garage plans, ZP6, to keep it very simple. I know you guys don't really like garages facing the street, but it is very far in the back corner of the property, and we did try to keep it very minimal in size. Just big enough to park a single car and/or golf cart. Now I can go through the materials list with you here. First, let me just address, I did put a copy of the historic survey report. And again, on the second sheet, I did highlight the area that they said the parts of the house that have the most historical significance. Every effort should be made to retain special elements in the house, such as the functional shutters, which we will restore and put back. The dormer trim, which we will 100% restore and put back. And we are also going to rehab the front door as requested in this document. Now I'll go through the materials list with you guys. The proposed roof will be asphalt to match the existing conditions. All the fascias will be cedar to match existing. Soffits will be cedar to match existing. Siding will be cedar, lap siding to match existing. Windows will be Colby wood windows, non-clad. All the window trim will be cedar to match existing. The doors will be either wood from Colby or custom wood doors, and of course I have on here existing front door to remain. Columns will all be cedar to match existing. Railings will be custom cedar to match existing. All decking will be Ipe decking. Foundation is going to be brick to match existing. The HVAC closure will be surrounded with cedar, same with the outside shower. The driveway and walkways are proposed to be brick pavers. Any fencing would be a wood or a cedar fence, and the lighting will be the Cape Cod style lights, which I provided a copy of here. And the garage, again, we tried to keep it small in scale. Everything on the garage will be wood, historically accurate materials to match the existing proposed structure.
Thank you.
No problem.
Comments? John?
So, one major issue for me. So if you look at the existing elevation of, this would be, I guess you're calling it the existing left side elevation, there's a little piece that is about 7 feet wide, and it sticks out about 7 feet, and it's supported by 2 knee brace brackets. You're making that thing 55 feet long now, extending 7 feet out from the house, which I think is unacceptable, because a little piece that's supported by 2 knee brace brackets makes sense and is historically appropriate. But along the entire length of the house, 55 feet, and with only 4 brackets, I mean, you can see it looks really, really awkward in both the front elevation and the rear elevation, if you imagine it the entire length of the house as opposed to just a little piece.
Plus, it's a character-defining feature.
Yes, it's
Of the house.
the original
Well, that's why
bathroom.
we're going to preserve that great little detail that goes around it. I did try to design this so it's all hidden behind the front of the main building. And we did camouflage it all to make that look like it's basically a veranda. And that's why we're putting all the special attention into the railing and the Bermuda-style shutters, so it doesn't look like this appendage off of the building. Rather, it looks like a portion.
Well, I understand that that was your intention, and I hate to be critical here, but I have to be, because you're disguising it as a veranda was by, you attempted to accomplish that on your second floor plan by recessing the piece of the wall between the 16-foot wide piece and the 7-foot wide piece by only about a foot. So that's not even enough to create a deep enough shadow to make it appear as if it's less than a 55-foot long mass. I see what you tried to do, but it's not going to work in terms of visually.
Plus the fact you're destroying a historical element to which that room sitting out there is a historical element. That's where the original bathroom was put.
We love that. We didn't want to change it. That's why we're doing everything behind it.
But you are.
Retain it. That's the old, it's not original, actually. It's
No, it's,
It was added.
This is one of my favorite houses in
You could,
town.
that could not have been original.
No.
You just
See,
plunked it
I'd
on
say
it.
it's
It's the one and only
element.
bathroom in the house, and they added it at a later time. They
Yeah,
put a little
Yeah.
powder room under the stairs, and
was
they added
added.
that bathroom.
It's
addition.
called a path for a bath. You put this protuberance out.
And we're kind of
Be
going with
perfectly-
that
perfectly
since,
honest with you, with the introduction of indoor plumbing, the Victorians really didn't trust it. They wanted it, but they didn't trust it. That's why they built and it gives a new term to outhouse.
Yeah, I have to say, I agree with John's comment. What's produced here looks like a flying second floor. It really just goes from the beginning to the end with a little dent in it.
Well, to make matters worse, and I hate to pile on here,
But you will.
I will. At the back end, the 16-foot wide piece is 2 stories high on those brackets. So it's so massive to be supported, it just is totally inappropriate for this house. Sorry to be so critical, but it happens to be the
spent a lot of
case.
time trying to massage this to make sure it kept the
Well,
historic
I mean, you
details.
succeeded in the extent that directly looking at it from the street, it appears to be just a little protuberance, but move a little bit off to the side, and you have a flying second floor.
So could you drop, let's say, some of that down to grade? Is there a
Well-
reason why you wouldn't do that?
Yes.
Okay, tell us.
If you look at the site plan,
Yeah.
and we actually wanted to bring it down to grade, but then we have no driveway.
Oh, I thought the driveway was further, oh, I see.
No,
Oh,
it cantilevers
yeah,
over
I
the
see,
driveway.
see, yeah.
So that's why we went
Yep.
with the brackets.
Yep.
Path for a bath.
Yep. So I was looking at, when I looked at the site plan, I saw, but then I looked at this, it looked like 2 tracks here on the plans, so, yeah. My
And I've
bad.
been down this road with you guys in the
What
past,
you-
so I know
what you-
anytime we put an addition on the rear of the house, I completely try to camouflage it from the street as best I can, preserve the front historic main building. So as Sean and I discussed as we were designing this, I wanted everything to be hidden, any new addition to be completely hidden behind the historic portion of the building. So that is what we did. I would have loved to bring that addition down to the ground, but then we would lose parking spaces and access to the rear proposed garage. So we kind of took it further, how they added an addition of the bathroom on the side of the house. We just kind of went with that and said they did it once, let's just kind of play off of that again. But again, I hid it behind the existing portion, and then we tried to decorate it up to make it look like a veranda in there. I can certainly play with the dimensions of that.
The way you have a 2-story, it makes it look like the house is getting ready to fall over.
Right.
Plus, this house is, this is really a charming historically important house with this character-defining element, and it should be preserved.
We agree, that's what we're trying to do.
So is the addition looks to me like it's almost the same size as the house, as the original house, or the house that's there.
So if you look on the second sheet in the packet, ZP1, and I also put a picture of the rear of the house on the first sheet, HC1. So there was a very funky addition built on the back of this house in the 60s. We're proposing to make that the 2.5 stories like the front of the house is. So we're not actually adding a lot as far as footprint goes, but we are going up to make the back portion of the house match the front historic portion of the house.
But what's in between that counts. That really throws the whole perspective off.
Yes.
Going to what you had mentioned about the what is it, an 8-inch indent? We could certainly play with that and bring it in 1.5 feet or something like that.
It's not going to do it.
Further?
It's not going to do it. I mean, you've made a 7-foot wide, think of it this way. Take a little tiny piece, like this big, and stick it on the side of a house, which is what was done in this case, because it's only 7 feet wide. And now you take that same thing and extend it to 55 feet? I mean, you can't do that and not destroy the integrity of the house. Do you have more room in the backyard?
More room in the backyard?
Yeah, I'm looking for, for some reason, you do, actually. So what would happen if you took some of that program space that you've lopped onto the side with these knee brace brackets and attach it to the back of the house? And again, made a little, some sort of reveal so it looks like it's clearly an addition.
So we did actually investigate that. However, you see they're putting a pool in. So we didn't want to eat too much of the backyard up to not allow
For the pool.
for the pool. Now, as my head is spinning here, thinking, the only change I think which I'd have to discuss with the owner would be, does he really need all these parking spots? Because then I could just put the small addition in the back, have it go to the ground, but then you're not going to be able to get all these cars off the street and get back to the garage. So I don't know if that's a non-starter right there.
Well, the other interesting thing is that everything that's in that 8-foot extension, or it looks like it's not dimensioned,
bathrooms
it's 7 feet, 6
So
feet
we
9
kinda went
inches.
with the
Yeah,
bathrooms
yeah.
over there, we put the water rooms on that side, and the room was the
Yeah, it's
plumbing.
all closets and bathrooms. So again, I'm pretty convinced you're going to be able to find an alternative solution. Maybe not with as much square footage, but clearly not hanging out there in the middle space. So that back bedroom is 22 feet wide by 18 feet. That's a huge bedroom.
Yeah, that's the master bedroom in the back of the house.
Well, that's still pretty darn big. I mean, could you start, well, I don't want to design it for you, but I would wonder if you could start to decrease the volume of some of those spaces and therefore start to get those support spaces, closets and bathrooms, in a tighter configuration within the footprint that exists.
Yeah, like we could, in the back, it's 6 foot, so it's not quite 7 feet. I know you're
Yeah, it's
saying
6'9".
7 feet. So it's 6'9" at the back, and then it's in to probably about 5, it's actually 5'8" where the bathrooms and closets are.
Yeah, so you brought it in a foot. You got that outrigger floating out there.
I think this plan is going to require some work.
Yeah.
This, again, is an important property. It has a number of visual cues that are important to the city. And trying to increase its square footage is just going to take a little bit more creativity of hiding it in the back.
What's on the third floor now?
2 attic bedrooms. Can we get some comments on, so I understand what you're saying about the driveway side cantilever of the building, but how about the other elevations, like the rear and the right side of the building?
So although you've maintained the footprint and only extended a little bit, the volume of this house is massively increased.
I just don't think this is going to work.
I don't either.
Well, that's because all that open space from the addition and back is now all filled solid.
filled in,
From front
yeah.
to back.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a funky addition that was put on, but now that's replaced with everything front to back. That's all filled in. That's what makes it so large.
I mean, square foot, well, footprint-wise, we're not, like I said, we're not adding a lot at all, but we are adding the roof line to put more volume into the building.
Right, well, what I see is open air before, and I see a lot of I understand it, but it is all filled in. That's what gives the massivity to it. You had asked for comments with respect to the rear, but it seems to me if you're going to be sort of rethinking this and possibly extending something further to the back, probably wouldn't make much sense to tell you, I think the rear looks pretty good the way you redesigned it.
Well, I don't think we'd want to go back much further. I think the scale, like, we wouldn't want the building to be any longer. Maybe a foot or two, but nothing.
Yeah, I was just working along the line that John had suggested, that you might find the space more toward the rear.
And/or some, as Warren said, engaging another iteration or two of some creative thinking about changing the scale and size of some of these spaces. You went from 5 bedrooms to 7. And, the master bedroom now is almost twice as big as any other bedroom in the existing house. So it seems to me like you've got some residual volume here that if you re-examined with a couple of iterative other choices, you might find it. So do you need 7 bedrooms? That's my first question.
But even if you need 7 or 8, can it be accommodated in a historic property?
Yeah.
And this changes from this really charming historic property and makes it massive and makes it something that it's not. And in a typical suburb, that would be fine. It looks nice, what was proposed, but it doesn't meet
The house
landmark needs.
going towards Perry Street, which is that house actually goes back even further than ours. It's the white house with the green shutters. Much larger than even what we're proposing to do. That house has numerous additions. It just keeps going back.
But they're additions and they look like additions.
Right, but what we're proposing is, we're trying to not make it look like additions. We're trying to replicate the back of the house to match the front and make it look like it was all built at the same time. I understand what you're saying about the cantilever, but the rest of the building in general was.
So I think the purpose is not to make something look like it's the same. I mean, the purpose, it would be much better if it looked like a little colonial house like it is, that had a few additions on the back. that would be more appropriate than trying to make this one big house that looks the same. It would have never, ever in its life looked like
Yeah,
this.
Put another way, the more you massively try to make it look like one structure, the harder it is. In fact, it becomes impossible to take the original out without, it becomes subsumed. And so there's a pitfall in trying to make it all the same, as opposed to clear additions that can be physically separated and seen as separate structures. So it's sort of a two-edged sword. Would it be appropriate here to table this one?
I think.
We can't grant
with the
conceptual, we
applicant's
can't.
agreement, I think it's better to table this and give it some thought and see if there's a different way of getting some of the square footage that you need.
So I would move to table it.
Excuse me?
I would move to table it.
And I'd second it.
Well, cool, subject to the 45-day
Subject to the 45-day
waiver of,
waiver.
Well, you accept the 45-day waiver?
Bunk beds. You get 6 bunk beds in each.
So we have a motion and a
Motion.
second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Ms. Campbell?
Yes,
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
yes.
Mr. Stevenson? Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Thank you.
Really does look like it's all over.
Next order of business is Healy, 236 Grant Street, Block 1019, Lot 13.01. It's a non-contributing structure. It's a detached garage and shed, relocating the existing shed.
good evening.
Good evening.
Catherine Healy, owner of 236 Grant, and also the property next door, 248. I'd like to thank you all for your hard work. I really got to watch it, and it was an interesting night. I came...
And long.
A long night, but I understand what long is. I'm 7th generation here. And I have 2 properties that are going to be kept for infinity because I have a trust set up to do that for my children and my future grandchildren. So at 60 years old, this is my forever home. And I've been on the property for 50 years. The delay in getting this to you, the final version, was a COVID DEP delay. And on March 7th, I've got the DEP a full approval, and I'd like to just quickly read it to you because it verifies, saying that this document verifies the flood hazard area design flood elevation of the Cape May Island Creek located at the above parcel, and that's talking about both 236 and 248, they're adjoining lots. That's lot, block 1019-12 and block 1019-1301. And it says, in addition, this document also authorizes the construction of a house addition at 248, a separate garage at 236, shed on 236, and in-ground swimming pool on 248 within the flood area of the said stream as depicted in the plan referenced. And it also includes a shed moving. So a new shed is coming on and a shed is being moved. We've provided all the information with tear sheets. At our last hearing here, there were a couple open items. The number one item was the DEP full approval because there were some concerns about wetlands, but that is no longer applicable. There was a question on the driveway that was in fuller detail documented on the drawings that have now been provided. There was a question on exterior lighting, which we have the tear sheets and have provided additional information on the lighting. It is non-contributing.
Yeah, we had, as I recall, the real question for us was not the garage, but the driveway and all that. And you have new grass block driveway. The driveway was a stumbling point for us, and that, I think, has been addressed.
Yes, we have the property and we do not need any variances for any of this work to be done, that we have the space.
And so really, what we're doing is,
One of the things was finalizing the loose ends. And that the DEP held everything up. Because by the time I got it in the mail, it was the end of March.
yeah, right at,
And that's how I had to try to hustle to get into this meeting and be placed at the end, because I was waiting for the DEP verification, which comes by mail. They don't really communicate to you that often. And it took over 2 years to get the DEP
so
finalized.
at this point, I don't have any questions, but I would open it up to the commission. Are there any questions on this?
I think it's pretty clear what you're doing. You've explained where it's located. You're moving the sheds, you're building one, and you're building a good-sized garage.
Yes, for storage
So
and family use.
I do just have one comment.
Yes.
You've given us exactly what we asked for, but something to consider. After many, many, many years of trying to use these grass paver products, the ones that are predominated by 50% concrete are far less effective over time because the concrete gets too hot in the sun, too hot for the grass.
Sir, I have right opportunity to purchase the house next door.
So all I'm suggesting.
Down the road, I'm working. I am a networker and I'm a planner.
Yeah.
And we are not really going to be accessing straight back that often because it's,
But I'm actually trying to help you. What I'm suggesting is there's another product that you can't even tell that it's paved. It's called Grass Paved 2 or grid grass. And it's actually a very dense plastic product that sits on a gravel bed, and the grass grows so thickly in it that you can't even see that it's paved, and it's approved for fire trucks.
okay.
So I
want to do whatever is best
So
for Cape May, my neighborhood, and my investment.
I'm not trying to in any way say that I wouldn't approve this. I'm just trying to, if you would prefer to see grass,
Absolutely.
then I'm just suggesting there's another product you might find that actually is not only more effective, but
I'm going to ask you to write that down for me because I'm starting to get a little tired.
yeah, okay.
She has supplied a material sheet and asked for approval, and I'm happy to grant that approval, but also if we do that, and she wants to use your product, we're going to have to just add that as a permitted addition.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then I'm.
Making her modify her material
I'm sorry, I
sheet.
didn't mean
No,
to do
no,
that.
no.
I'm trying to help you.
No, I saw what was going on tonight, and I appreciate the effort that's being put forth. As seventh generation, I have a lot invested into being here. I love Cape May. And we do have a little bit of a serious problem on the beachfront with swimming at high tide, so.
John, this was the turf paver concrete that you were referring to?
Yeah,
as a
so the
substitute.
turf cape, when I've used it, we started using it like 15, 20 years ago. The problem is, in certain climates where we are in temperate climates, the concrete absorbs so much solar energy that it gets hot, and it gets too hot in the summer for the grass to live, and it kills it,
Okay.
right? So
And I don't want to use any more water than I need to use, so I want to be very conservative on.
In order to permit you to be more flexible, I mean, we would approve this. I think we'd vote to approve it and give you final approval, but permitting you to use additionally to the material you've specified.
Either or.
Yeah, well, no, John, I will take it very seriously. It's a large area.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is not keep it green. You know, I don't want to use any more water than I need.
Just like
And I'm
offer you more
always,
flexibility.
hey, build a better boat each day, build a better home each day.
So you
And
want-
that's what afforded me to be here.
Sure. I'd be
Thank
happy
you
to-
for your
I-
time.
I would be happy to move for approval with allowing you the option of alternative grass paved products.
Thank you for the suggestion. I agree 100%.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Stevenson. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. And thank you for your patience. You've had a long.
No, thank you all.
I appreciate your
I
patience.
appreciate it, and I look forward to helping Cape May stay the way it is.
Good.
I'm going to do quite a bit of charity and other things in my property, so it will all be for the best.
Okay, open to the public. There's
Doesn't seem to be a public
No.
present.
no public present, so we'll close it to the public.
Good night.
No.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Sometime.
Discussion. The only thing that I'll mention now, so we try to keep it in mind, is when we do the calendar next year, that in April, we have 2 meetings. Because there's other applications that we've been putting off. So as long as this was, it could have been much worse. And it just seems to me customer sensitive also, because people are trying to get plans put together so they can get work done.
In March or April?
And, well,
Sounds like we need to double up some meeting. April, you're suggesting, or?
well,
I would play it by ear, see what our volume is. If we've got,
well, no, we do a calendar in January.
for our dates, when we can put alternate dates on that calendar. We used to meet every other week, or twice a month.
Does this happen every spring, Warren?
That's what I need.
Does it happen every spring?
Yeah.
It does?
So how about if we just address the spring bulge with an extra meeting in March or April?
I
whatever
think
the-
either March or April. And we publish that, and then people will know, and they can get these applications in, because, you know,
I mean, it really does look like, from the volume of things coming in, and the applications and review are long. There's a lot of stuff going on before it even gets to the hearing stage. So I can sure understand us needing an additional meeting, but not more than one.
no. So it'll either be March or April, but let's just remember in January, when we do the calendar. And also I feel I was a little impatient earlier today, and that's because I have met with these people, these 2 applicants, earlier 12 times.
That's your job.
And then they came
It's
with
your
it,
job unless you give it to somebody else.
and then they
right?
came with after we have an agreement, they came with a different plan, so, anyway.
Yeah.
So before we go, what's the deal on this roof?
Which roof?
The parish
We're
hall
not gonna hear,
off the
parish
agenda
hall
roof.
Corbin submitted that, and that was scheduled to come before the full commission. I walked over to the job, it's the rear roof of the parish, which I don't believe that building is contributing. More importantly, it's not visible from the front or the side yard. And historically, we have in fact approved replacing cedar with asphalt fiberglass when it's not visible from the front or the side yard. And it's not contributing, and it's a church. And so I shared with Corbin that I was going to approve it in review, but only because there's precedence that has been set. And just to make sure we're communicating completely, though, I would not approve the front roof to be a cedar, especially in review, but, I mean, in asphalt fiberglass, because there's cedar
So
under,
this property's gonna have half a roof of asphalt and half a roof of shingle?
maybe, but in the
We've
back,
done crazier things.
it's in the back.
Actually,
We've done that.
one-third of that roof, the beach end, one-third of that building was built over an addition, the kitchen addition, and has plywood sheathing underneath of it.
Oh,
It was built, it was put on in 1999. In 2012, I think it was, we were somewhere that we were getting ready to do major renovations, and the board gave us permission for an elevator shaft on the outside. There've been a lot of additions.
Well, let's,
yeah,
but,
okay.
but
So the point is, we're going
we've
to
done
see this as approved in review
Yeah,
in the
next
next
time.
batch of stuff.
Yes.
So guys, you all did a good job tonight. We got through a lot of stuff that was not easy fairly quickly.
Well, I don't know, John, it's 3.5 hours. That's not a short period of time.
Yeah.
We need people to show up here with better designs, is what we need.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Oh,
I so move.
so moved.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Plus, Jim, we started half an hour later than you.